All right, welcome. This is Orion Rising. I am your host, Leonard O'Neill. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good morrow, depending on where in the world you are tuning into this show. Show this out, show this out, show this out. Welcome, everybody. It's Friday night. Law of One. I see Rick and I see Denise in the audience so far. Welcome. Show this out, show this out. Okay, let me take down the banner and overlay here. Start tagging people, get them in here, right? Okay, so wait, let me put myself up in full screen here. Bang. Okay, so we are live on Instagram, we are live on YouTube, and we are live on Facebook. And then shortly after this live ends, we will be live worldwide on the MP3 broadcast of the Law of One. Today is Friday night for those of us in the North American continent. It's still Friday night. Actually, most of the world, except for everybody on the other side of the Prime Meridian, you guys are already on Saturday, right? Okay, so get everybody in here who's going to get in here. And sorry, I'm getting notifications here. I am live, like I said, on Instagram. I've been doing that now for about 3 weeks. So if you're over there on Instagram, say hello. Wait a minute, I'm in the wrong area here to be able to see what's going on. Okay, so, all right, guys, so it's Friday, the Law of One. We're on session 55, I think. Don't quote me. I know I have the right one queued up, but I just don't remember what it was. Been crazy. I was almost late for going live today. I was actually able to sit down for about 15 minutes, but it was a little rough around the edges with a lot of stuff going on. Sorry, I was looking in the living room at the television and I was seeing a glare from the windows on the television. I was trying to see who was on TV. It was Kelly Clarkson. Okay. So last week they were talking about, and they kind of got into, first they were talking about chakras and balancing the chakras and the benefits of that. But we were also dealing with dimensionality, right? So I wanted to kind of recap that just a little bit before we started, because there, you know how Dawn backtracks a bit and then moves forward. I'm sure that's what's going to be happening here again today. So I was able to share this into a couple places, but please share this out and get everybody in here. So I'm going to go ahead and play the Law of One, play Raw, right? And Cassie, welcome. And you guys let me know if you can hear it okay. I'm going to turn up the sound. I know it's down a little bit because I left the sound down during the intro music because I don't have to have even the sound on for that. I can mute everything. But when I play Raw, I have to actually have my sound up for you guys to hear it because it's on the internal microphone. So I'm going to go ahead and press play and we'll get started with that. And I'll do a sound check. You guys let me know if you can hear it okay. Like I said, I'm going to turn it up right now, but we'll go from there. Okay.
June 8th, 1981. 56. I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. We communicate now.
And then I turned it down instead of up. I apologize. Okay, let's continue here.
56.1 Questioner. Would you first please give me an indication of the condition of the instrument? Ra. I am Ra. This instrument is severely distorted towards weakness of the mental and physical complexes at this time and is under psychic attack due to this opportunity.
Welcome, Paulie Sullivan. Welcome. Back again talking about the psychic attack. Now, Carla was under attack almost every day for the entire time between 1981 and 1984. And even after that, when I saw her just before she passed, that must have been 2015, 2016. She was being wheeled out on a gurney to talk in front of a crowd. She was in a hospital bed, and she was still doing that all the way up until her last breath. That woman was still channeling. They were not able to channel Ra after Dawn committed suicide in 1984. She was never able to communicate again with Ra. It took all three of them to work together to actually channel Ra, but she channeled many other beings and knowledge for the rest of her life. So that was done, 81 to 84, 84, 94, 2004, 2014, 2 or 3 years later, she was still doing that work. So it was incredible. And anybody who knows somebody who channels, you realize that it takes a lot out of a person when we do that. Just medium work takes a lot out of a person. Reiki healing takes a lot of, because when you're transmuting energy through your body, it burns up all of your water, it burns up all of your sugar, and so it depletes. So you have to learn. I've been teaching this for like 35 years. Teaching people to balance their body, and this is what Ra talks about with Carla: the right exercise, the right foods, the right meditation, and then making sure that you have food in your system just prior to doing the work. If you go to get a tattoo anywhere in the United States, I don't know about the rest of the world, but here in the United States, because I haven't gotten a tattoo out of the United States, but I'm assuming that it's the same everywhere. The tattoo artist will tell you, make sure that you have eaten. Why is that? Okay. Why is that? Because the act of the tattoo on your body is going to drain your body of water and blood and your blood sugar. Okay. Of him just tattooing your body, doing damage to your body. And when your body reacts to the energy of the tattoo gun piercing your skin and cutting you for however long it takes for you to do the tattoo, even if it's just outline, your body reacts in a specific way and starts burning fuel to kick endorphins in to help you with the pain, kick endorphins in to help try and heal the body, and then your immune system goes on overdrive and sends all of the blood and oxygen and nutrients to wherever it is that you're getting the tattoo. So if that is the case from getting a tattoo, why is it that people don't realize? I guess if you've never gotten a tattoo, you don't know that. Why is it that people don't realize that transmuting energy in any way is going to take a toll on your physical being? Okay. So we teach this because people they just don't know these things if they're not taught. And since they don't teach anything that has to do with anything holistic in schools anymore, they don't teach you anything that has to do with your body, with the human body at all. They don't teach you anything. They don't even teach you what you need to know in school. They teach you basic language, basic reading, basic arithmetic, basic everything, just enough so that you're uneducated, period, but you're just educated enough to speak, read, and write, and not even in that order, and not even truly reading and writing as much. They don't teach you how to balance a checkbook, how to fill out paperwork, how to write a check, cash a check, keep track, budget your money. They don't teach you any of that stuff. None of it anymore. I'm of a generation where we still got taught those things. They don't have home economics anymore. They don't have socialism anymore. And socialism that they do have is part of DEI, and it's about convincing you that you should hate everybody and be afraid of everybody. And if you're white, you're the problem on the planet. And you need to pay reparations to every single person from every ethnic group because you've offended them in some way just by breathing. And you're a worker bee, and your job is to get the most basic job for minimum wage you could possibly get. And I'm not saying that just because of saying that about it's like everybody in general. If you're not part of the elite 1%, your job is to be their slave, and that is how they're teaching everyone. Rockefeller actually said, and a few other people, you can look this up. They actually said, we are not trying to create, I am not trying to create entrepreneurs. I am trying to create workers. And this was over 100 years ago when he said that. John D. Look that up. Take people for what they tell you they are. You hear that all the time in the propaganda for politicians, right? You hear each politician saying that about the other politician. It's true. It is actually true. You need to realize that. Listen to both of them when they're telling you that about the other person, because it is actually true. So if you hear, like in the United States, if you hear Donald Trump say, listen to what she says about herself and believe her, believe him. And if Kamala Harris says about Donald Trump, you need to listen to what he says about himself and who he is, believe her. Okay? Believe them both about what the other person is saying about themselves to be true, because it is. Okay? One of them is not telling the truth and the other one is lying, because your favorite one is the one you're going to say is telling the truth and the other one is the liar. Okay? I'm telling you, they're both telling you the truth. Okay? You need to realize that. There is not a politician on the face of this earth or a corporate executive that owns a business, especially if it's a global business, that cares about your life, your soul, and your well-being, past what equity they have vested in you. And equity doesn't mean equality. You should look that word up. Equity means value invested in you. You have equity in a house. You have equity in a company. Something you own that has a value is what equity means. So you need to realize that about every single person that lives by that caste system where there's one person in charge. And you can't say that I can't say that 100% of everybody, because the dynamic is 14% of the population is in service to self. Okay. But of that 14%, 99% of all business is run by one of those 14% worldwide. Business, government, everything. Everything because the people that are of that mind seek power anywhere they can find it. Board of directors, city council, governmental system for the city, for the state, for the county you live in, for your school system, for your church. Those people seek power 100% of the time. Of the people that are in power positions, you're going to find that 90% of them are evil and 10% are not. That is the dynamic in that religion. Okay? And you need to realize that. So to get back on point, Carla is being attacked currently in almost every single day of her life, especially when she started delivering the message about warning the people of this planet of what's happening here. Okay? I have the same thing happening to me, and I have my entire life. Whether you want to believe it or not, I don't care. I really don't, because it's my life. Just like if you claim something and people say, I don't believe you. Do you really care when they don't believe you? Because the truth is, you know the truth about yourself and what you've gone through. And if they don't want to believe it, they can do that. Everyone has a choice, right? However, and this is why we tell people as you start waking up and you start ascending, that you need to be careful, because when you get to the seminal point, the point of no return, you actually glow a different color when you start trying to help the world and you start ascending. You can tone that down. This is why a lot of people, when they wake up fully and pierce the veil, they just become hermits and they just don't do anything. It's not because they don't want to help. It's because they know that the second they try to help, traditionally on this planet, you were hunted and you were killed, murdered. They just dox you. They just delete you. They stifle you if they can. As soon as you become popular, they go after you, discredit you, everything they can do to ruin your life. They do that. So you have to be aware that that's what's going to happen to you and then learn how to defend against that and be able to maneuver under the radar from these people, and then get ready to weather these things when they do come after you. Okay. So Carla does that, is my point. So we're going to hear, I'm going to start it again, and you're going to hear how they're, talking about that going forward. Deborah Anderson, welcome. I don't think I said welcome to you. I don't know if you said anything before. I just happened to look down at the chat just now and I saw that you were in here. Okay. So let's continue. Carla is under a psychic attack in this session currently, and they're going to start talking about that. Let's continue here. Okay. Oh, Penny, hi. I just looked down and Penny said hello. I hadn't seen you there. Hi. So if I've missed you, please say something in the chat, and that way I know that you're here. Okay, let's continue.
56.2 Questioner, would it be better to discontinue the contact at this time? Ra, I am Ra. This is entirely at your discretion. This instrument has some energy transferred which is available. However, it is not great due to the effects as previously stated. We, if you desire to question us further at this working, will as always attempt to safeguard this instrument. We feel that you are aware of the parameters without further elaboration. 56.3 Questioner, in that case, I will ask, how does the pyramid shape work? Ra, I am Ra. We are assuming that you wish to know the principle of the shapes, angles, and intersections of the pyramid at what you call Giza.
All right, so I wanted to say hi to Galactic Briggs and Jessica over on Instagram. I can see that you guys joined. I don't know if you're still there, but you joined the show over there. So I just want to say hi, give you guys a shout out. You haven't said anything. If you don't say anything, it doesn't come into the chat. So I just happened to look over there and realize that you guys were over there. So welcome. Okay, so now we're talking about the angle of the pyramids, and I thought we already covered this. Hopefully, I'm not backtracking, and it's just me having deja vu. Let's continue.
In reality, the pyramid shape does no work. It does not work. It is an arrangement for the centralization as well as the diffraction of the spiraling upward light energy as it is being used by the mind/body/spirit complex. The spiraling nature of light is such that the magnetic fields of an individual are affected by spiraling energy. Certain shapes offer an echo chamber, shall we say, or an intensifier for spiraling prana, as some have called this all-present, primal distortion of the one infinite creator. If the intent is to intensify the necessity for the entity's own will to call forth the inner light in order to match the intensification of the spiraling light energy, the entity will be placed in what you have called the Queen's Chamber position in this particular shaped object. This is the initiatory place and is the place of resurrection. The offset place, representing the spiral as it is in motion, is the appropriate position for one to be healed, as in this position an entity's vibratory magnetic nexi are interrupted in their normal flux. Thus a possibility/probability vortex ensues, a new beginning, shall we say, is offered for the entity in which the entity may choose a less distorted, weak, or blocked configuration of energy center magnetic distortions.
Okay, so I wanted to reiterate again. I talked about this last week, but I wanted to reiterate it again, just in case people are unaware, because most people are confused worldwide as to the function of the pyramid. There's people that call it a microwave engine. Other people call it a light engine. Other people call it a water pump. Other people call it a healing center. Other people call it, something that is just pointing to the stars. Pardon me. The pyramid and its structure, if you look at it, and I've talked about this many times, there's not a lot of people that actually get what the pyramid structure is. If you look at the pyramid and get an image of it, I should have gotten one ready to show. And you look at where they show the internalization of the shafts and the staircases and the hallways and the Queen's Chamber and King's Chamber. It literally is a giant mock-up of your brain in the area that is from just below the navel right here on my face, going across your face and going up as a triangle to the crown chakra, and all of the functions of the brain itself, going up the claustrum into the pituitary gland and the hippocampus and the optic thalamus. Okay. The Queen's Chamber and the King's Chamber, respectively, are those two areas. So the king's chamber being the optic thalamus, your third eye. Okay. The entire function of the pyramid 12,000 years ago was designed to assist the human condition in an ascension by going in the pyramid itself and moving through the physical places that represent what goes on in your brain with the Christ oil, the Christos, right? The Krishna, or the what's the other word in the Hindu language? The Shiva energy is the Christ oil. Those words all mean Christos. And that's the Santa Claus, where you get that. People don't realize all those words mean something. You can look these up. The word for grandmother or wise woman is in even modern Norwegian is Tanta. Tanta. T-A-N-T-A-N. T-A-N, right? Tanta. Yeah, T-A. That's the feminine. The masculine is Santa. Okay? And Klaus is the claustrum, the going through the Klaus. What does that have to do with the chimney, right? Okay. Before Santa Claus became Santa Claus, he was Chris Kringle, Christopher, Christ, Kringle. The ancient Viking word, Norwegian word, Kringle is still used today. It used to mean hole in the ceiling, chimney. It actually, from the 1100s until now, is the grommet hole in a sail for a sailboat that the rope goes through. Kringle. So Christ oil, who goes through the chimney, Chris Kringle, then becomes the Santa Claus when he goes through the claustrum, the actual chimney. The wise illuminator. It's a story for children about the Christ oil. Everyone always says, "Oh no, it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the mushrooms and this kind of stuff." And what well, why does he wear that funny hat? Because it's actually there's a part of your brain right next to the hippocampus, part of the hippocampus that is attached to, and I forgot what it's called. That is attached to your optic thalamus, or no, it's actually your not your third. Yes, your third eye. It's actually the same shape of a little hat with the tassel at the end, and it actually comes off. It's in your brain, and it's actually the dome structure that sits right in between the horns that are in there, the ram's horns, Amun's horns. The Amun part is the Santa hat, and that would be the eye of Horus. And that part that we call the eyebrow that's going up above and going down to the little dingleberry, which is your pituitary gland, that's right below your hippocampus in your head, that secretes the oil. It makes the shape of Santa's hat. Okay? You can look this stuff up. I've posted about it. Many other people have. It's in the book. I don't have it over here. Yes, I do. It's in. Not only is it in my book, The Reality About Reality: Returning to the Old Ways, but it's also in this book called God Man, The World Made Flesh. This is more talking about the Hebrew Bible and the New Testament Bible, showing you the Christ oil and a lot of the stuff that's in there. Where mine has reference. I wrote this and had it in the publishers to be edited, and I had a copy of this for 2 years and never read it. And I picked it up and started reading it and went, wow, had I started reading this while I was writing this, I could have referenced this book in there. But it's being referenced in my next book that I'm currently writing. But you guys should read God Man, The World Made Flesh, and you should read The Reality About Reality: Returning to the Old Ways. So that same information is in both my book and that book, which was written somewhere around the early 1900s, I believe. I'd have to look at the date again of when that book was actually published, because this, I think, is a revised edition. It is a revised edition. Let me see when it was originally published. It's actually very old information. It's been around the world for a long time, the information. Yeah, see, this was redone in 2022, but that's not when it was originally published. The first edition was farther back than that, and it doesn't say in here because it's all just about this book. So it was in 2022. So I literally bought this in 2022, didn't start reading it until 2023. Yeah. So I didn't have it for 2 years. I had it for a year. So all of that information is, and this is where I'm going with it. Let me put my book cover back up on the screen here. Instead of holding up the book, let me put the book up on the screen. So those of you who are watching the MP4 broadcast, you can see the book. It's on sale worldwide online. You can buy it. And the information is in there telling you about the information that they took away from you that you're not currently learning on this earth anymore at all. You have to look for it and find it. So people like me have been trying to do it in every generation, telling you about it. And they did it, and it was redone. That one's not as complete as some because it doesn't have any of the images in there. So it still has in there C figure A, and there is no figure A in there. So there are other copies of it that are longer that you guys can buy that are older. But that's actually a really good book to read. Most theologians, my brother mentioned it to me while I was reading it. He's in a theological college, and he was at a Bible study, and one of the priests was talking and teaching the class, and he mentioned the book, and my brother mentioned it to me, and I said, I'm currently reading that book. I have a copy of it. I've owned it for about a year now. And he says, seriously? And I go, yeah, it's a really good book. You should buy it and read it. Your whoever that minister was that was talking about it is very right about the information that's in there and the interpretive nature of the Bible, showing you. I do the same thing. My book is not completely about that. The next book that I'm writing is showing the different religions and how all of that pertains. So literally, Santa Claus was Kris Kringle, and then he transforms into Santa Claus. That he comes down through the chimney, comes down on Earth as a physical person, and then when he ascends back up the chimney, he's magical and he illuminates and he leaves you a gift behind, and he becomes the Claus, the Santa Claus, the wise teacher that goes through the claustrum in your brain, which is just like a chimney in your brain. So that's the Christ death and resurrection. So it's the same story about Christ oil being sacrificed and then illuminating your third eye, your optic thalamus. It's the same story. Now, I'm not saying that people didn't, and the priests back in the day didn't give people mushrooms, the Vikings, and the people who talk about that are not wrong, because they did. If you look around the world, the psilocybin that is in mushrooms has expanded the human race's consciousness in the areas where that's what they had and they grew. The further east you go, the more you have the lotus and the purple lotus. And that has the same, DMT, ayahuasca, psilocybin, all of those things you can still find today. And I don't condone you doing any of those things that I just mentioned without having someone there to help you, to assist you, and to make sure that someone doesn't screw with you and give you a bad trip. Make sure you do that under supervision, unless you've done it before and you know what you're doing. Okay. I will say that because that's the first thing that evil people do, is make sure you have a bad trip by making fun of you, laughing and making weird noises and scaring you and doing everything they can to make you freak out, and then they all laugh at you and film you. So make sure that it's people you trust and that will assist you to be able to do that. But we don't need to do that anymore, but some people are still doing it. There's nothing wrong with it. Okay, I'm not saying I've never done those. I've never done ayahuasca, DMT, or mushrooms or any psilocybin, but I have smoked some hash and some marijuana that has super high THC that has the same effect. Not like that stuff they sell over the counter now that's 25 to 50 parts per million. That I have to smoke like 4 bowls of that to get high anymore, because even though I haven't smoked any for about a year now, almost 2 years now since I actually have. Um, but why do you think they call it high? Okay, so getting back on point with Carla, and I'm not on the chat, so you guys are probably talking to me and asking questions, and I'm not even paying attention. Chances are you're not asking questions, though. Most of you just sit around talking to each other in the chat that do show up in the chat. So I'm sure you guys, and that's why normally when people do ask a question and they're like, Leo missed the question, that's because you're 99% of what you guys are saying doesn't pertain to the show or me. Welcome, Peter. And you guys are chatting like it's a chat room that you guys are just hanging out. Hey, how's everybody doing? And, how's your dog? And let me send you a picture of, it's just a regular chat room for most of you who show up and talk in there instead of asking questions. Okay, so let's continue. So you have Carla that's under a psychic attack, and you have to become aware of these things. We taught this. We don't have classes that we teach this very much anymore, and I'm trying to get that restarted to do that again, because there's so many people that are waking up around the world, and everybody's going off half cocked, and they're not having the realization that you become a target, and that it can become serious because they will try to kill you. That's what they used to do to everybody all the time. Okay, that's not a joke. On this planet, up until 40 years ago, they would murder everybody. They're trying to kill Carla. They continued to try and kill her all the way up to 2016 when she actually did die. Okay. In the last 10 years, there have been 4 attempts on my life. Not because I thought that and I'm making it up, because other people who were not even aware of my life were actually psychic and saying, he's under attack right now. They're trying to kill him. What's going on with him? And then they contact me and find out I'm in the hospital and I'm about to die and I'm not supposed to live. And they're like, oh my God, they're trying to kill him. It's literally an assassination attempt through psychic attack. And he is unaware of it, because I never assumed that when something happens, right, that you don't just go, oh, I have a hernia and the hernia is strangulating. Oh, that must be somebody trying to kill me. No, it's just a hernia that it'll strangulate if you have it long enough and you don't have it fixed, right? Well, now before they used to just go in and do the surgery. Now they wait until you're about to die. That's not a joke. Now they wait until it strangulates, and then you go in for emergency surgery, or they don't do it. That's just the way it is here in the United States. Don't know about where you are in the world, but that's how before it used to be. If you had a hernia, let's get you in and have surgery immediately to repair that. The second they found that out, they don't do that anymore. Yeah, I had a hernia and I lived with it for 4 years before it strangulated. And then they were like, we need to get you into surgery right now or you're going to die. And I'm like, we could have did this 4 years ago when you guys first said I had a hernia. Why didn't we? Well, that's just not what we do. So because it doesn't save your life, they want money because they want you on all kinds of medication for the rest of your life. But yet when it's something that you want done, oh, we have to get approval for that. And we don't want to do it that way. Do you see? So they don't want to do anything they have to do because it costs them money to do that. But they want to be able to get money out of you consistently and have you addicted to things. So they don't want to cure anything until your life depends on it. And then they're all in a hurry to charge you all kinds of money for it. Okay. So let's continue, right? Let's continue with talking about that. So they're talking about the pyramid now. And I wanted to get back into that because that was what the whole Santa Claus story was about. And all these other stories around the world. That's funny because I literally, my screensaver right now is actually Hymenoptera. Weird. I just when I went to click over there, it went to the screensaver. I could see the screensaver behind the window that I have open for the media player for the Law of One, and it was a picture of Hymenoptera in the background. I'm like, wow, that's random because it's on a random generator, and I don't have it on my computer, but it's just coming off the internet and generating random screensaver pictures. I'm like, that's kind of cool. We're in Egypt. Next, it'll be Luxor, and I'll move into the pyramid, right? So the pyramid itself, if you look at it, is this, actually from right there, is this in your head, okay? It is this part of your brain. So it's literally everything on the inside of the of what is the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark of the Covenant is everything on the outside. And I have reels and memes about both of those that show you the human brain and the function of the human brain superimposed with the skull from side views, from the front, from the top down, and all of this that I've been describing for you. They're all on my reels and shorts on all the platforms dating back to 2 years ago. You just have to find them. Okay, they're all there, including the ram's horns and what that means and where that is. All of those I've already put out for people to see years ago. You guys just got to go find them and scroll down through my reels and go. You know, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, I'm on TikTok. Although the ones on TikTok have been deleted, so it's brand new there. I'm only there for. I've only been on TikTok, back on TikTok now for about a month. So you won't find everything there, but you will find it on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and where else did I say? Twitter. So the TikTok was deleted last year, and then I restarted it again just about a month ago. So you can go anywhere else and you can find them. They're up there. Okay. So the pyramid is actually your working of your brain. That is the Christ oil that helps with the ascension. We don't need the pyramid anymore. 12,000 years ago, people were not doing what all of us are doing today. Okay. So exponentially, the entire human race, which at the time, 12,000 years ago, was only about, I think, 400,000 to 700,000 people strong. I don't even think we had 1 million yet. No, we did. We had millions. No, 12,000 years ago, we were just under, I think we had 2 million people worldwide. 2 million people worldwide. We hadn't even reached 1 billion yet. We didn't reach 1 billion people until around the time of Jesus. So we're looking at 4 to 28 to 30 BC, or I'm sorry, CE, Common Era. AD if you're a Christian, Anno Domini if you're a Christian in the year of our Lord. So by then we had a couple of billion people, 1.5 billion. And then by 1981, when this was taking place, we had 2.7 billion people on the planet. We now have almost 8 billion people on the planet 40 years later. So exponentially, the human race has populated, literally by 5 times the population. Well, literally 4 times the population in 40 years. That is a very big population explosion. Of that population explosion from 1981 to 2024, 89% of every soul that came to this planet came here from a higher plane. So there are currently more people on this earth, 86% of the entire species. If you're listening to my voice around the world, you have an 86% chance that you are not indigenous. You did not get your start on this earth as a tree or plant or dog or cat or bird or anything like that. You came from a higher plane and came here to assist this place. So when I'm speaking to the world, there's literally an 86% chance that everybody out there in the world who's hearing my voice came here on purpose. You just don't remember it because when you come here, you get mind wiped, you get veiled, and you have to wake up. Okay? The pyramid was designed to assist people with that and teach people the ascension. And we don't need it anymore because we're 12,000 years since it was functional. And we don't even need to use drugs anymore. Just in the 1960s, so 60 years ago, people weren't really waking up unless they did the psilocybin and the DMT and the ayahuasca and all that stuff to assist them with the ascension. We don't need any of that anymore. We can still use these same methods, but we don't need them anymore. Okay? So we're doing it naturally without anything. Holistically now, more people in the world are waking up than doing without, with holistic things, without doing these drugs. But you can still do them. So way back, thousands, 20,000, 30,000, 100,000 years ago, people needed that stuff to expand their consciousness. So there is some theory that if you believe in evolution, which is just not true, but even after, when we know there's a missing link, but even after that, when the Homo sapien sapien that we are today, our brains expanded very rapidly at a certain point, and that's why people buy into the idea that aliens came down here and changed our DNA. But that's not what happened. What happened was people started eating mushrooms and purple lotus and doing all these consciousness expansions things, and our brains just spontaneously grew. Oh, well, it wouldn't do that. Okay, so a squirrel, you can look this up. A squirrel living on the North American continent, every year when fall begins, which is what we're starting now, autumn is starting. Autumn is the first official day of autumn is less than a month away, about a month now. We're on the 18th of August, 16th of August. A month from now is the first official day of autumn. The brain of the squirrel on the North American continent expands and grows every year in autumn because they bury food for the wintertime and they need to remember where everything is that they hid and buried so that they have enough food to sustain their lives through the cold time, the rain, the snow in the winter, because they don't hibernate like bears do. Their brain expands. And then in springtime, their brain contracts and gets smaller because the food is abundant and they don't have to have that memory. So if a squirrel's brain can spontaneously grow almost double in size every year, then you think the human brain isn't going to do that over time? No, of course not, because we're stupider than these and simpler than squirrels, right? Okay, so that's not the only brain that does that on the earth. It's just people don't realize that. So everyone buys into these theories that sell all kinds of money in television shows that aliens showed up here. But they have no proof of this, by the way, that aliens showed up. There has never been writing found from any species that said people came from heaven in spaceships and collected us and did things to us and made our brains get bigger. None of that is anywhere. You would think if that's what's happening in the world, since we humans write everything down and say God came down and gave me a brain, that if we were in fact in the Wizard of Oz and we were the Scarecrow and we didn't have a brain, wasn't it the Scarecrow? Yeah. And God gave the Scarecrow a brain. You would think we'd write that down and say God gave us this large brain. I was stupid yesterday. God got here and put me on a table, and now I have a big brain. We would write that down. We would paint them in caves. None of that's anywhere other than people from somewhere else seem to show up here. There is no written information anywhere, record, or any stories from anyone that says people came from another place and tinkered with us that wasn't invented in the last 150 years. And most of it was invented since 1948. Most of it has been invented since 1948. And the majority of all of it that's been invented by everyone has been in the last 50 years. All of those stories. You can look that up. I'm not making that up. You can look that up. So there is nothing in history. There is stuff in history that says it's a very good possibility that people came here from another planet many times throughout history. But there is nothing anywhere when we got smarter to where we give credit to us getting smarter from God or anyone else. There is none of that. And I tell everybody to look that up for themselves. Okay? So, because everyone always says, oh, aliens came down here and created the human race because we have 7 distinct alien cultures that make up the human genome. And it was because they all came down here and tinkered with us, and we used to be monkeys. And then we became humans because they changed that. Okay, so while they were here, how come they didn't write that down? How come there is no information telling we had this place? Oh, well, it's the Garden of Eden story. No, the Garden of Eden story was about the ascension. It was about the same Christos oil and eating of the tree of life. Had nothing to do with aliens coming down and creating the human race and putting them in this fabulous garden. Has nothing to do with that. It's been corrupted into that story. from the other story. I've talked about this just the other day. This was about 3 or 4 days ago now, with Stephanie that's in the group. She's not here right now because she was always at work, I guess, on Fridays. So, but if you listen to this later, Stephanie, she's going to laugh and go, yeah, we just talked about the Garden of Eden and that whole story just the other day, a couple of days ago. I talked to her about that, and I was like, think about the story that they tell you that whole thing is. I'm not going to get involved in that because that could take me off for another 25 minutes to 30 minutes talking about it. But you should really go look into that story. They corrupted the story. They took half of it out and left the other half in so that it makes women look evil and propagates the idea that men own women because they were the evil ones who convinced the poor man who was supposed to be superior to women in every way, but he was dumb and couldn't figure out shit for himself. And Eve was the one that said, here, eat this. And he went, okay. And he ate it. It wasn't his fault, but he got kicked out with Eve too from God, kicking them out, both out. Well, if it wasn't his fault and she was created from God, how come God didn't have pity on him and just get rid of him, get rid of her like he did the first one? Oh, wait, they don't even tell you that in the Bible anymore, that there was a woman called Lilith who wouldn't be subservient to Adam, and she got kicked out because Adam cried to God and said, she won't do anything I tell her to do. I told her she's got to, she's got to put the thing in her mouth, the thing in her mouth. And she said, no, I'm not putting that dirty, nasty thing in my mouth. And God, we have to have another one. And God said, get out, you whore. She's a whore because she didn't want to have sex with him and do what he said. So then they got her ripped another rib out of Adam and created another more subservient woman who also wasn't listening to anybody and ate from the tree of life and said, you need to eat this, Adam. And he went, okay. And he ate it. Now God's mad at Adam too and kicked him out. Come on. That's not even a story that 5-year-old kids are going to believe, but they try to sell it to you like that. You should look into that. Okay. So, yeah, so there's many stories that were corrupted in all these religions. It's what I talk about in my book. And I show you not the corruption, but I show you what they're supposed to represent. Not all of them. I'm not going through the entire Quran. I'm not going through the entire Talmud. I'm not going through the entire Old Testament, New Testament, and telling you all that stuff. That's for other theologians to do because that's all they do, is they go through that stuff and they talk about that stuff and they never do anything besides point out how all of this came from another older scroll. So we got to find that scroll, and they spend their entire lives cutting down the trees to try and find where the forest is. It's not that one. Cut that tree down. That's not part of the forest. And this one, cut that one down too. Now there's still shit in my way. Cut those down. Where'd the forest go? Must be way over there. I see it across that big opening. Let's go. Let's go over there. And then when they get there, they go, where'd the forest go? I don't know. These trees are in the way. We need to cut these trees down so we can find the damn forest. And that's all they do. That's all they do is chase their tails saying there's got to be an older scroll that's the original scroll. And every time they find the next scroll, they go, well, this one's not the original scroll because they said it came from a different scroll that's older. We got to go find that. Cut down the trees again. We got to find that forest. And that's all they do. And that's what they've done for about 2,500 years. They just keep finding older and older scrolls. And if they don't agree with them, they burn them and censor them. And then if they do agree with them, then they go, yeah, that's the one right here that everybody needs to know about. But it's not the oldest one because those people claimed there was another one. We got to go find that. And nothing ever gets done. Nobody ever learns anything. No one ever does anything. And no one ever notices that all of those scrolls are saying the same thing, except for when they're trying to say to you, they're all saying the same thing. So they must have been borrowed from that older one. And they don't even care what the message is. And what the message has been forever telling you what to do. They don't teach that to you. They just keep going, well, when we find the oldest scroll. So that's like saying I'm gonna find the end of the internet, and eventually I'm gonna get there, and the internet's gonna go, you've gotten to the end of the internet. There's nothing else for you to search for. That will never happen. Ever. Ever, ever, never. So what makes you think you're going to find a scroll that says this scroll is the first scroll ever written for the human race that God gave us? Because weirdly, all of them say that already. Then why don't they believe that? That's the question that you need to ask yourself. But the true question isn't any of that. The true question is, what is the freaking message that every single scroll has in common? And you'll find the answer, the beginning of the answer to that in my book, The Reality About Reality, Returning to the Old Ways. Who did it, when they did it, why they did it, and what the message actually is in my book. And you can read that and then not believe a word of it. I hope that's what you do. You read it and you go, "Yeah, this guy's a liar, and I'm going to cut the trees down to find that forest." Because if you take that approach, you'll just keep going down rabbit hole after rabbit hole after rabbit hole after rabbit hole, and you'll ignore the fact that every single rabbit hole you go down is telling you the exact same information. If that's the mindset that you get into, you will never ascend. You will never get out of here. You will never leave this place. You will be trapped here, constantly looking for the tree of life and looking for the land of milk and honey and looking for the water that's going to give you immortality. And that's where you'll be. And you'll never learn anything because you're ignoring everything that's being said to you and not realizing that they're all saying the exact same thing to you over and over and over and over and over and over in every culture throughout all of time. And that's what my book is about, showing you the beginning stages of that. And then I'm giving you even more examples in the book that I'm currently writing, which should be out in a couple of years. Okay, let's continue. So the pyramid is, in fact, that is its function. And people, you don't have to believe me. You can go down that path too and then find out that you're going to find an older scroll that's going to tell you what the pyramids are doing and when they were built and what that function was. Because there's as many theories for the pyramid and what that pyramid was as there is ideas about the scrolls out there in the world. And none of them are going to do anything except for tell you that this is information that is older than the other information, which is older than the other information, which is older than the other information, which is not the official story that the Egyptians tell you, mind you, but it's also not the original story, because we know that there's this other scroll that they're talking about. We got to find that one. And you'll get down the same disinformation, misinformation. It keeps you so distracted that you don't pay attention to what you're chopping down, what you're stepping over, to find the message that you're stepping over and chopping down. Let's continue.
The function of the healer and crystal may not be overemphasized, for this power of interruption must needs be controlled, shall we say, with incarnate intelligence, the intelligence being that of one which recognizes energy patterns, which, without judging, recognizes blockage, weakness, and other distortion, and which is capable of...
Oh, see, now, Penny, you're doing the same, having the same mistake that everybody is. Adam ate the apple. There is no... The fruit of the tree of life is a proverbial fruit. No one knows, and people have gone to war over whether it was a blackberry, a raspberry, a strawberry, a cherry, an apple, an avocado, and a banana. People have killed each other over that, and none of those are true. None of those are true, and I tell you this because Adam never physically picked something up and ate it. That is not what that story is about. Eve never picked something up and put it in her mouth, chewed it up and swallowed it. That is not what that story is about. Eating from the tree of life is about a way of life that is unhealthy for the immortal soul's ascension at the wrong time. The story of Adam and Eve and the fall from the garden is the story of what if you do that's wrong and eat of the tree of life at the wrong time of the month, and only eat of the tree of life at the correct time of the month, and the difference between what happens to you and your illumination in your brain, not by eating a physical piece of food. So she didn't eat any physical piece of food, and people have, again, that's chopping down the forest because you're trying to find the trees. Everyone's like, well, it depends on what the fruit was that she ate. Because every fruit has a different property and thing that they do for you. And the fruit that she ate gave her the ability to see good and evil. Doesn't even say that in the Bible. Okay, but in the act of doing that actually does do that. But that is not a physical thing that you do by eating a specific fruit that's growing on a tree that gives you knowledge. The tree of knowledge is the halls of Amente, the Akashic records, and it's within you. Your endocrine system, your electrical system in your body, your nervous system, is the tree of life for your physical body. And it controls 7 functions of 7 organs: your eyes, your nose, your mouth, your ears, your lungs, your heart, your stomach, your genitalia, and the epidermis. There are 7 of them. I made a meme about, or a reel about that as well. Okay. Yggdrasil, the tree of life, all the trees of life in every religion is identical. They have 7 major arcana and 3 minor arcana. So there's 10. And that's only because those are all about 5,000 years old, because there's actually 12. But they haven't been added to this because you have to be in 5D and 6D thinking, or 4D and 5D thinking, to expand the consciousness to 12. So eventually all the trees of life around the earth will be updated with 2 more functional chakra points that are minor chakras, not the 7 major arcana. But they haven't yet. The human race isn't ready for that. But they're getting there because they're starting to realize 12. 3, 6, 9, 12. They're starting to realize that. And then 15. And then from that, if they get to the 12, then they'll get to 24. And some people are starting to realize the enigma of 24, which is the next set of octaves, the next 12. 12 and 12 is 24. The first 12 is 3rd dimensional, moving into 4th and 5th dimensional. Okay. Expansion of the consciousness to being awake is 9. Okay. Is 9. Getting to the 12 is then the realization and moving into the place of consciousness away from and above the thinking mind and the ego, and being present in that place at all times. That's now moving into 4D and then 5D realization. You immediately will go to 3, 6, 9, 12, which is 9, 10, 11, 12, 3 more numbers, 10, 11, 12. Okay. But 2 arcana. I don't know if you're understanding that. So to reiterate, there was nothing, right? Did anyone go to war over eggplant? That's funny. Yes. I mean, every plant, every spice, people killed each other on this earth over cinnamon 1,000 years ago. In the 1100s, people murdered people for cinnamon. The French, the Spanish, and the English killed entire populations to get it and take it back home. Okay? Eggplant, everything, avocado, which only grows in certain regions here in the North American continent, corn. They didn't have any corn anywhere else in the world until they came to the New World and found corn. They murdered and tried to kill off the entire indigenous population to get corn, and then took it back and planted it all around the world now. Okay, so I know you were joking when you said, did anybody kill over eggplant? Everyone is killed over every commodity that they found. Pineapple from out here in the Pacific Islanders. Rick probably knows about that because he's Australian. So he probably knows more Pacific Island folklore from the Aborigines and the like than most people do. Most Australians probably do, right? I'm just assuming that about Rick, but I'm sure. I mean, he works at Uluru, for crying out loud, right? He's at the navel chakra of the planet. I'm here at the root chakra of the planet. It's less than 100 miles away from where I'm sitting, north from where I'm sitting currently. I'm right on the beginning of it. The earth just turns orange here. The dirt just turns orange here going north. It's clay down below that. Ask Rick what color the dirt. You've seen pictures of it. What color is the dirt at Uluru? It's orange. Okay. So everything was killed over tea. Yeah, right. Peter was talking about tea. Right. So saffron, Rick. Yes. I'm crazy about saffron. People killed over that too. Everything that came from every country around the world that is specific. Saffron comes from Asia. I believe it's Asia originally. Everything that has a home, when they found it, they were killing over it and taking it back and introducing it to their people. Every spice, cinnamon, peppers, everything you can imagine. Cocoa beans were also indigenous to the Americas, right? Cacao, they were murdering people over that. Coffee beans, they were murdering people to get these plants because it was a commodity that they could trade. There was a time in the 1500s, guys, and going backwards to like year zero, glass beads. We just sell them by the billions now, little plastic and glass beads that we put on necklaces. That was actually money before we were trading diamonds and rubies and stuff like that. Are you aware of that? People manufactured little teeny beads, one little teeny bead in the lines of the colors that they had on that glass bead, whether it was red or blue, or if there was two blues and two reds, or one red and one blue, meant that was a certain value. And people would have beads in a little purse, little pouch of leather, and they would trade beads. And people around the world, over in India and Rome, were literally melting sand and turning it into beads and painting them and cutting them into little pieces that weighed a certain amount. And that was money. Everyone just assumes that we had paper money and that we traded gold and silver forever. We did not. We did not. That didn't start until they found all the silver and gold from the Americas and murdered half of the indigenous tribes in the North American, Central America, and South American continents, and stole about 1 trillion pounds of gold and silver from this area and started smashing it into coins. Before that, it wasn't gold and silver. It was bronze. It was lead. It was aluminum alloys, copper, things like that. It wasn't gold and silver until about 1,000, almost 2,000 years ago, about 1,800 years ago. And then they found all the riches of the gold because the Egyptians had started, because they had a ton of gold, and the Egyptians were all over the world. Where do you think they've now traced the people from Egypt, the pharaohs, to Nova Scotia, Canada, and mining materials to make their Bronze Age weaponry and ornaments 5,000 years ago. So the Egyptians, when the Australians tell you the Egyptians came there a couple thousand years ago, everyone's like poppycock. They weren't anywhere in the world. And when that guy over here in the United States said that they found Egyptian artifacts in the Grand Canyon in a cave, everyone said the Egyptians were never here. And when I hear that, I say, then you should tell the people in Nova Scotia that the Egyptians were never there either. And neither were the Vikings. Yet they know for a 100% fact that they both were there. And here in America, they were like, oh, the Vikings never came to America. I trumped that with, if the Vikings never made it to America, why is there a place in Lake Tahoe, California, just across the border into Nevada, 3,000 miles away from the East Coast, where the Vikings would have landed? Because for the Vikings to get to California, to Lake Tahoe, if they didn't come across the land from the east, they would have had to have sailed all the way down around South America and all the way up into the San Francisco Bay and all the way up the San Francisco Bay to where I am now in Sacramento. And they would have had to have walked over the Sierra Mountain to find Lake Tahoe. And why is that important? Because there is a fort that is still there currently that has been found and remade and fixed, that they have dated back to more than 1,100 years ago, that Vikings built, and it's called Valhalla. And you can look it up on a map, and you can book a room there, and you can go there on vacation and take a tour if you don't believe me. proven that Vikings made it all the way to California and were living in a village 1,100 years ago. Not 100 years ago. 1,100 years ago, Vikings were living less than 100 miles from where I'm sitting now and could possibly have been living here. But we don't have any other structures left, but those ones are still there. And there's structures on the east coast of the United States that date back to the same time period. And there's stories told by the natives of the Viking people being here and living here on the North American continent. I lived in Arizona, and there's another place in the desert of Arizona, which is more than an hour southeast from Phoenix, Arizona, which is less than 50 miles away from the Mexican border in Arizona, where the Vikings lived in the middle of the desert. And you can go there and Google it, and you can go there and take a tour of it. So Viking towns, villages, and encampments from more than 1,000 years ago on the continent of the United States of America. And no one believed that until 20 years ago. And the Egyptians were in Nova Scotia, Canada, 4,500 years ago. And the Canadians know about it. Okay. So there's more to history. Just the guys doing, looking into the what do they call that? Looking into Oak Island, the Curse of Oak Island. Those guys in the 12 years they've been doing the Curse of Oak Island have uncovered proof that in Nova Scotia, Canada, on the island they own, that the Vikings were there in the 1100s. And that they now know that the Vikings transported on their long ships, prove this, last season and the season before, on their long ships, all of the money and gold and everything out of the Middle East. When the Templar Knights found out that they were going to be taken over on Friday the 13th in the year 1207, October Friday the 13th, the Vikings got word that the King of France and the Pope in Rome were going to arrest all of them and seize all of their assets, all of their money, all of their power, and all of their wealth. And the Vikings disappeared into the Templar Knights disappeared into obscurity, never to be seen again. They've proven that those Vikings, all Viking longships from a certain king, showed up at a Templar stronghold and left and sailed all the way to Nova Scotia, Canada, and unloaded tons and tons, hundreds of tons of gold, trinkets, jewelry, and stuff underground on Oak Island. And the Temple Knights showed up there about 5 years later and packed it all up and sailed away to Scotland with it. This has been proven in history. They found all of this information. Okay, so that was in 1207 that happened. This is 2024. So you need to understand that the history of the world is not what you're knowing that it is. Getting back on point, is not what you think it is. It is what you're being told. And they're omitting information that they don't want you to know about. And the pyramid and its function, they would rather have you believe that there was some god or some king that was buried in it. Yet there is no information anywhere that any king, even the one they claim built it, was actually buried in there. No one was. But that's what they tell you. And they get really mad if you say anything otherwise to them. Okay, so let's continue here about the pyramid and it's what it's about according to Ra, not from what I'm telling you, but what Ra is going to tell you, the function of the pyramid.
Visualizing, through the regularity of self and of crystal, the less distorted other self to be healed. Other shapes which are arched, groined, vaulted, conical, or as your teepees are also shapes with this type of intensification of spiraling light. Your caves, being rounded, are places of power due to this shaping. It is to be noted that these shapes are dangerous. We are quite pleased to have the opportunity to enlarge upon the subject of shapes such as the pyramid, for we wish, as part of our honor/duty, to state that there are many wrong uses for these curved shapes, for with improper placement, improper intentions, or lack of the crystallized being functioning as channel for healing, the sensitive entity will be distorted more rather than less in some cases. It is to be noted that your peoples build, for the most part, the cornered or square habitations, for they do not concentrate power. It is further to be noted that the spiritual seeker has, for many of your time periods of years, sought the rounded, arched, and peaked forms as an expression of the power of the Creator.
To answer your question, Rick asked a question: is it true? Is it true? Is it true they're fogged to be another, or there is about to be another? I think is what he was trying to say. Another pandemic about the jab for monkeypox every year at this time since COVID. Every year in July and August and September, going into they say it in June. They tell you there's going to be an uptake of the pandemic again in July. It always happens in the middle of summer, and then nobody listens and it doesn't take off. And then they start telling you about monkeypox. They just call it mpox now because everybody used to laugh about monkeypox. And it's just a lie. Anything to scare you. It's a Hegelian dialectic, Rick. It's an invention to try and scare everybody because they're trying to get your idea of fear stuck in your head so that they can tell you there's a global pandemic again as soon as the flu hits. They did it last year, the year before. They've done it every year since they got everybody convinced about COVID and getting shots. There's memes going around right now showing a monkey wearing a monocle and clothing and smoking a cigar with a martini in his hand. And it says, make no bones about it. Know that the M in monkey is money. Okay. And it's Luke. I think it was Luke Skywatcher that put that out, or it was Jethro Tull. I love the parodies, right? Instead of Luke Skywalker or Jethro Tull, it's Jethro Tull and Luke Skywatcher. But those two are really animate on Facebook of unlocking and unpacking these lies that people keep telling you. It's just another one that they're trying to get you. And then they're like, oh, it's the new virulent. It's called flirts. Gotta love these stupid names. They're so unoriginal that we're flirting with danger with flirts that's going to kill everybody. And then it's just a flu bug and nobody's buying their shot. But monkeypox every year, they say that monkeypox is on the uptick and it's going to kill everybody. And the story behind monkeypox, okay, you should look this up. The story behind monkeypox is that it's the same story that AIDS was. Let me tell you the story of AIDS. Story of AIDS back in the 80s claimed that black people in Africa were having anal sex with monkeys. And that's how they got AIDS. Okay. Monkeypox is black people in Africa are having anal sex with monkeys. And that's how they got it. Okay. The only thing that I've heard that makes any sense whatsoever is that monkeypox and all of its things that they say you get when you get it is weirdly 100% of all the side effects that people are getting on their skin from taking the vaccine, the COVID vaccine. Weird. Just saying. You can make up your own mind whether that's true or not by looking up the possible side effects of these vaccines worldwide, and then looking up what it is that you get when you have monkeypox. Weirdly, it's 100% the exact same thing. And it's weird that the people in Africa keep having sex with monkeys when there's so many people in Africa. I think it would cost less to have sex with a man than it would to try and get a primate, which is between 8 times and 100 times stronger than a human. Okay, because a gorilla is 100 times stronger than a human, and a chimpanzee is 8 times stronger than a human, which means that a human cannot overpower the chimpanzee to stick his penis in his butthole. Okay, you can have sex with a sheep who will not fight you for free and only get syphilis. Weirdly, though, the monkeys in Africa really must be like having some issues because every time a black man puts his penis in a monkey's butt, he gets a new disease that then transmutes into, weirdly, when monkeypox first came out, it was, look out, gay people, you guys are having anal sex and you're going to get monkeypox. Weird that 45 years ago when AIDS came out, they said, look out, gay people, you're having anal sex, you're going to get AIDS. Weird that the disease started from black people having sex with monkeys and then gay people having sex with each other. And that's how both of these diseases were transmitted to humans. I'll bet there is no coincidence whatsoever, and black people need to stop having sex with monkeys in Africa and then having sex with white people around the world. Because that must be what's going on. Because the same people who discovered AIDS and monkeypox are telling you that's how it started and how it's getting transmitted. Okay, so you have to listen to what people are saying from the standpoint of an adult to realize that they're lying to you. Okay, they're lying to you. Same thing with flirts. They're going to come up with a brand new thing to scare you. Last year in the United States, they tried to tell us that we had a triple-demic because the flu, which they claimed was eradicated off the face of the earth, miraculously, the same strands reignited. They reincarnated out of death like a phoenix. And we're just there, the exact same strand, which is weird because if a strand dies, it's supposed to morph into a brand new strand. But it didn't until it started getting into humans again. So we eradicated the flu bug in 2019 and never got it again until 2022. And then the flu started up miraculously around the world in 2022, all over again. And it was right when they needed it to. And then the flu plus the bird flu plus the monkeypox plus the COVID in 2023, a quademic last year. And no one died from all of that. Weirdly, the death rate is still down to less than 0.5% worldwide. Oh, well, that's because everybody got inoculated. Yeah, that's the only reason they're still alive. And all of you who didn't get inoculated are dead now. You're the one that killed us all. Weird, because the people that weren't inoculated didn't get it. Just saying. And the ones who did got over it and have antibodies to it. Whoops. Okay. So, yeah, it's just you have to realize that it's all a flu bug. Because if COVID was killing as many people as they said, how come there wasn't people dead in cars, dead at the bus stop, dead at restaurants, lying dead in the street when you went out to go to work? They were picking people up and they had carts and guys were banging a bell and going, bring out, you're dead. How come that wasn't happening? Didn't happen anywhere except for in public places like old folks' homes and hospitals. Oh, because they were rounded up prior to. Really? Because that's how the plague has worked everywhere on the face of the earth always. Right? No. People were found dead everywhere when there was a legitimate plague. Up to and including 1932 in the United States and around the world with the Spanish flu. Weirdly, in the modern era, none of that's happened, yet they claim that it was a bigger pandemic than anything in history and that everybody was dying from it. But no homeless people were found dead in tents, sleeping on the side of the road, dead in gutters anywhere in the world. Weird. People weren't driving down the road and just crashed their car because they died of COVID doing 75 miles an hour. That didn't happen. They tried to tell you that happened when somebody had a heart attack and crashed, that it was COVID. But there is no proof of that. You didn't have film footage of people that were the ones that people did drop dead, because that happened a lot. Those were people who got shot and the side effects killed them. And the news didn't want to show you all of that. And that's why people have made memes about that. And they put it out there showing you how many people dropped dead and how people were just dying from heart attacks and their heart stopping after getting the shot worldwide. But they don't want you to know about that. And that the leading cause of death around the world since people were getting the shot, is not COVID. It's from complications from the shot, but they don't want you to know about that. Look that up. I'm not making this up. Assume I'm lying to you. Okay, assume that I'm making this up and that I'm your enemy, because if I'm triggering you right now because I'm saying this, it's because you've been programmed to be triggered by me. That's why Democrats think I'm a Republican and Republicans think I'm a Democrat, and they all hate me because every time I talk about anything, I'm the enemy. Same thing when I talk about vaccines and the Hegelian dialectic that is what's going on. Okay, anywhere you are in the world right now, you're living a Hegelian dialectic. You should look up what that is. It comes from a guy named Hegel, who wrote a dialectic that Karl Marx took from him and created Marxism out of his dialectic and turned it into the Marxist dialectic, which every communist country on the face of the earth since Karl Marx wrote that has used to turn a country into a communist country. And it is currently happening to you everywhere on this earth now. You should look up the Communist Manifesto and see about it, including the United States of America. Okay, you should look that up. You should look up the Communist Manifesto and read all of the 48 things to 80 things that you are supposed to do. You can look at the top 10 that you're supposed to do to turn a country into a communist country that came from Karl Marx's Marxism and that was turned into communism. And you can literally read that, and it's not very big, so you don't have to read an entire novel to figure it out. You can just read the manifesto that tells you what to do, and you can check it off happening in your country. Everything that's going on globally right now with the problem with food, the problem with supply, the problem with because of COVID and the lockdowns and everything that's gone since then, is to make your life. Here's the Hegelian dialectic. Here's the dialectic. Make your life miserable and make you hate it because you're not making enough money and there's not enough money to survive for you, so that you'll accept the socialist idea of, you need to give me power so that I can regulate the prices from corporations. You need to give us the power so that we can take control of the farming, we can take control of the food, we can take control of everything and regulate that and make sure that everybody has the exact same amount of everything. Okay, we tried that in the 1970s in the United States. You should look it up. Okay, in the 1970s, 1978, 1979, they gained control of everything and regulated gas prices and said people should be charging a certain amount for gas. And what that does is that creates a scenario where companies have no reason to manufacture and sell goods, because you're keeping it at a certain price and you're lowering the price, so they get paid by the government more money to destroy their crops than they do to actually make them. So they get paid augmented that you don't know about, your taxpayer dollars, and they destroy their own stuff so that there's only a certain amount of that, and that creates a vacuum where there's not enough and everybody has to stand in line for it. So in the 1970s here in the United States, if you had a driver's license or license plate that ended with an odd number, you went on one day, you got to go get gasoline, and even numbers went the next day. And the lines were 6 hours long to get gasoline, and they would run out of gasoline before the day was over, and half the people didn't get gasoline, and they were pushing their cars up to get gas by everybody pushing it down the street because they didn't have gas, and they would wait in line for 8 hours because the regulations said that they could only sell a certain amount of gas every single day, and everybody just had to live with it. And then the prices went up because it became rare, because nobody was manufacturing gasoline and able to sell it at any price. So the cost of oil went up, and then the government stopped buying it, and then they had a low amount, and they did the same thing with food. So we abolished that by 1982 when Ronald Reagan got into office, and we became the most prosperous nation on the planet because we got away from socialism. And now everybody wants to get you back there. So you need to realize that all of this is what Raw is warning about, and then we'll get back to the pyramids. What Raw is warning you about, that is the modus operandi, the MO of the Orion Crusaders, and what the information is that they gave to the evil people on this planet who think that they own it, and what their plan is to starve you out and take control of you because they can't just kill everybody off anymore, which is their end goal to begin with. Okay, so let's continue here.
56.4 Questioner, is there an apex angle that is the angle for maximum efficiency in the pyramid? Ra, I am Ra. Again, to conserve this instrument's energy, I am assuming that you intend to indicate the most appropriate angle of apex for healing work. If the shape is such that it is large enough to contain an individual mind/body/spirit complex at the appropriate offset position within it, the 76 degrees 18 minutes, approximate, angle is useful and appropriate. If the position varies, the angle may vary. Further, if the healer has the ability to perceive distortions with enough discrimination, the position within any pyramid shape may be moved about until results are affected. However, we found this particular angle to be useful. Other social memory complexes, or portions thereof, have determined different apex angles for different uses, not having to do with healing but with learning. When one works with the cone, or, shall we say, the silo type of shape, the energy for healing may be found to be in a general circular pattern unique to each shape as a function of its particular height and width, and in the cone shape, the angle of apex. In these cases, there are no corner angles. Thus the spiraling energy works in circular motion. 56.5 Questioner, I will make a statement that you can correct. I intuitively see the spiraling energy of the Giza pyramid being spread out as it moves through the so-called king's chamber and then refocusing in the so-called queen's chamber. I am guessing that the spread of energy in the so-called king's chamber is seen in the spectrum of colors, red through violet, and that the energy centers of the entity to be healed should be aligned with this spread of the spectrum so that the spectrum matches the various energy centers. Can you correct this statement? Ra, I am Ra. We can correct this statement. 56.6 Questioner, would you please do that? Ra, the spiraling energy is beginning to be diffused at the point where it goes through the king's chamber position. However, although the spirals continue to intersect, closing and opening in double spiral fashion through the apex angle, the diffusion, or strength of the spiraling energies, red through violet color values, less.
Okay, so Cassie, I'm not quite sure that I understand the question. You said, so does Dawn, does Dawn lay in some sort of, I think you're asking about Carla. Dawn is the questioner, her husband. Carla is the channel. No, she's laying in a bed. If you go to my Facebook page and look at my photos, there's actually pictures of Carla. If you look at my photos and you scroll down, you'll find pictures of Carla when they took pictures of her when she was channeling. So she lays in a bed and her head is facing north. Behind her is north. And she's laying in a bed and she has a microphone sitting on her chest, or a little recorder, cassette recorder, and a microphone sitting on her chest. And she's got a sheet on, and next to her on her right is incense burning in an incense censer, and the Bible is open to a specific passage, and they have a candle burning as well. And Dawn is sitting down in a chair at the foot of the bed with originally Leonard, and I can't remember what his name was, the other guy that was there who was the scribe. And he would write everything down that was being said, and they would record it on a cassette. But they did build a pyramid, a smaller one, and put it under the bed below Carla's head, so that her head was a certain distance. Ra talks about that, was a certain distance above the apex of the pyramid, because there's a portal that is created above that. And if you put one under your bed and you make sure you do it at the right distance, then literally the illumination helps your entire third eye and your brain if your head resides in that area. That is a portal that opens up in there. And so you got to be careful when you do that, because if you don't know what you're doing, you'll astral project when you're sleeping and it'll freak you out. But it's not like you'll die, because if you stay outside of your body too long, your body pulls you back. Then you just have those moments where you're laying there sleeping and you go, and you think you were in the air and slam into your body because you come in real hard. Your body pulls you back, your soul back. If you stay out too long, the universe has that. So you have the silver cord. You hear people talk about the silver cord. There's a silver cord that's attached to your soul. It's attached to the body that you're in the third dimension. And if you get lost out in the world and don't know how to get back, it pulls you back. And you come in hard, you slam into it. So sometimes when we go out, we forget to come back, or we go out and we stay out as long as we can until the body yanks us back. And then we wake up and go, oh, Jesus Christ, that freaked me out, man. And you literally feel, because you feel that slam. So when you wake up, you literally were like, I was in the air just now when I bounced off my bed, because your soul actually comes in hard and hits your body, and it wakes you up physically, and you jolt up, and you literally have the sensation of that drop. In like literally you came in here because you did, and you actually have the memory of it because you come in so fast. So yeah, that's kind of crazy, right? So then yes, they do that as well, because then Cassie asked, did they have crystals around her? Yes. They, not crystal meth. Rick says crystal meth. No, crystals. They did that. I used to do that, where I would put crystals either under my pillow or on the floor underneath. You can do that. If you put them there, they get in your way and you end up bumping them and stuff. So you can do that by putting them in something, right? Because I used to put them in, I used to carry them around my neck. I used to have a spirit pouch where I had like all kinds of stuff in it, and I wore it 24 hours a day. I took it off when I got in the shower and put it back on. And sometimes I would just leave it on and get in the shower and let the leather get wet anyways with soap and water. And then but I literally wore it, and it sat, I would always trim it so it sat right above my heart. So it literally sat in the pit of the chest right over my heart. And I wore it like that for, I don't know, 20 years. I wore one. My first one that I got was from Native Americans on Earth Day down in the San Francisco Bay Area when I was like 20. And I kept it forever. And I have one that I right now on my nightstand, but the leather itself, I've had it in my pocket so much that the leather like ripped and tore and everything was falling out of it. I just haven't replaced it yet with a new one. So yeah, you can look into that stuff. And hopefully, yeah. Okay, so that totally answered my question, right? I thought there was something that was triangle with the pyramid shape that is below her. Yes. So they do have one that they put under her bed, but it's not over her head or behind her. Or actually, I think they might have, if you look at the photo, they might have a candle that is, you could buy them, candles that are pyramid shaped. They may have a pyramid candle sitting on the stand next to her head that they don't burn. So that is possible. I haven't looked at the photo in a couple of years. So if you go to my Facebook page, look at my photos and scroll down, you'll find pictures of Carla laying there from 1981 where they took a picture of her. Okay, let's continue with this.
If we speak of strength and gains, if we speak of diffusion, until at the peak of the pyramid you have a very weak color resolution useful for healing purposes. Thus the King's Chamber position is chosen as the first spiral after the centered beginning through the Queen's Chamber position. You may visualize the diffusion angle as the opposite of the pyramid angle, but the angle being less wide than the apex angle of the pyramid, being somewhere between 33 and 54 degrees, depending upon the various rhythms of the planet itself. 56.7 Questioner. Then I assume if I start my angle at the bottom of the Queen's Chamber and make a 33 to 54 degrees angle from that point, so that half of that angle falls on the side of the center line the King's Chamber is on, that will indicate the diffusion of the spectrum, starting from the point at the bottom of the Queen's Chamber. Let's say, if we were using a 40 degrees angle, we would have a 20 degrees diffusion to the left of the center line, passing through the King's Chamber. Is that correct? Ra, I am Ra. This will be the last full question of this session. It is correct that half of the aforementioned angle passes through the King's Chamber position. It is incorrect to assume that the Queen's Chamber is the foundation of the angle. The angle will begin somewhere between the Queen's Chamber position and thence downward towards the level of the resonating chamber, offset for the healing work. This variation is dependent upon various magnetic fluxes of the planet. The King's Chamber position is designed to intersect the strongest spiral of the energy flow regardless of where the angle begins.
Okay, and I forgot to mention that too, okay? The spiral energy. So it's literally the Kundalini energy that is being generated inside the pyramid, okay? So you should look into the Kundalini energy and why that's important to the Christos oil, the Christ oil, okay? So he's literally talking about the Kundalini energy right here. The spiral energy is the Kundalini energy. Kundalini and Kunda buffer, because Kundalini is masculine. Everyone assumes Kundalini energy is just one energy. It's two. That's why you see the Celtic knot work. There's two, masculine and feminine energy that spiral. One goes this way, one goes the other way, right? So you got clockwise, counterclockwise, spinning, 2 serpents going upward. One is Kundalini, one is Kunda Buffer. Kundalini is masculine, Kunda Buffer is feminine. Okay, so the spiral energy. Let's continue.
However, as it passes through the queen chamber position, this spiraling energy is always centered and at its strongest point. May we answer any brief queries at this time? 56.8 Questioner, I will just ask if there is anything that we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or improve the contact. Ra, I am Ra. All is well, my friends. It is well, however, to be conscious of the limitations of this instrument. We feel the alignments are excellent at this time. I am Ra. I leave you in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. Go forth, therefore, rejoicing in the power and in the peace of the one infinite creator. Adonai.
So they ended the session earlier. This session, there was only like 6 or 8 questions. Next week, we'll start the next session. That one's got 24 questions, right? So I thought the same thing when I was editing this, so that the computer would say raw. I'm thinking about starting to use the computer program that I have for the AI voice for raw, because the AI voice is far better. And I've had this computer program for like 2 years, but I didn't get into the AI voice until recently. If you listen to the video that I just made last week about my book, that's AI voice. It sounds like I hired some woman to do the oversight. In fact, my sister said, did you pay that person, or is that somebody that you know that did that voiceover? I'm like, no, that was AI. And she's like, are you serious? And I'm like, yeah, that's a program that I've already had that before it was called AI. But it is what we, because all programs are now called AI. Before they used to be called a program. And then after that, they were called a computer program. And then they were called an algorithm. And now everything's called AI. I'm sorry, there was an app in there, because it's actually an app that I have on my computer that is a video app to make videos and stuff that I use to make videos. I don't do it for the reels that I make. I just use like the Instagram or TikTok. I usually start on Instagram now. I used to do it on TikTok. But TikTok always takes 1 full second off of everything you make to put their logo in there. And Instagram puts the logo up on the screen and doesn't take any of your time away. Just like when I take I make a 30-second reel and I put it on YouTube. YouTube takes 1 full second off. If you put it on Instagram, if you put it on Twitter, TikTok, or X, they take 1 full second off. Most of the applications do that, but Instagram does not. So if I make a 30-second reel, it's 30 seconds long, and their logo just appears on the screen, and they don't take up any of your time. But as soon as I post it on another platform, TikTok, immediately erases 1 second so that they can put their ending logo up there for everybody to see. So I add it to there, but I don't take it from there and post it to the rest of the world, because that annoys me. I'll let you put your logo on there if you don't take away from something I created. As soon as you take something away from that I created, what you're going to get is me making it on another platform, or myself with my own computer program, and I'm going to post it to your platform, and I'm not going to give you any credit for it. It's just going to be on your platform. That annoys me, especially if I'm paying you. And then you decide that you have to put your logo and take away from something I created to put your logo up there. That's one of the reasons why I stopped doing that. It was the reason why I stopped making them on TikTok and started making them on Instagram, because Instagram doesn't erase any of your time. It just puts the logo on the screen. So your name is there. Their logo comes up with so they're giving you credit of what the name of your name is on their platform with their little logo up there. That's all. I'm okay with that. Right? Because they're giving me credit as much as their credit. They're showing you that I made it on Instagram, and where you can literally type the name of my name into Instagram and find my profile. So I'm okay with that. They're time sharing with me, and they're not forcing me to show a logo that they take away from my creation. If I'm making something 30 seconds long, it's 30 seconds long. Okay. I don't want it to be 29 seconds and your logo now. Because if that was the case, I would make it 31 seconds long so that it would be 30 seconds long. But they don't let you do that. Everything is in 5-second increments unless you're doing it on your own. So I sometimes do that when I make videos. I sometimes do it that way. and that way I can make the video as long or as short as I want on purpose, and know that they're going to steal 1 second to give their logo on the platform, right? It's just like I was looking at today. I was invited for a reading from someone who was live, which was a really cool reading. It wasn't long. She just did one card, but it was on Facebook, and I was looking at how everybody's giving stars, and I was like, how much does that cost? Because I know it's not free, right? So I looked it up, and if you give somebody what is it? It's like I think it's 10 stars is 1 penny or something like that. Yeah, so 100 stars is $1. But for you to buy stars, because you have to buy them from Facebook, for every $1 that you pay Facebook, they only give you 75 stars. So they're charging you 25 cents. So your dollar is only worth 75 cents on the dollar. And then every cent is 1 cent that you get to give someone else if you give them stars. But you lose 25 cents for every $1 to buy the stars, and you can only give away 75 cents for every $1 that you pay. So that's a great idea by Facebook, because they're ripping you off. They're charging you 25% of every penny you spend to get stars so that you can give other people money. And I don't know if they charge money when people cash things in. I don't think they do. But I looked into that because people, what they're doing is psychics are now saying, I'm going to do readings for everybody, but if you give me stars, you get to go to the front of the line. So the more stars you get, the bigger read you get, so that they generate more money. So somebody who could have gotten there first can get never read or read last because they're not paying for it. Right? And I get why people are doing that, because some people are making a living at doing that. So I don't fault anybody for doing that, but don't claim that everybody's going to get a reading if you're not going to sit there and read everyone. The problem with that, and this is what I tell every psychic, and this is one of the reasons why I stopped doing it, is because as you start getting popular, more and more people come in and everybody wants a reading. So you can sit there and you could start it at 5 o'clock in the morning, and you could go until you drop of exhaustion, and people will still come in and get annoyed if you don't give them a reading. So you got to say, I'm only going to read for a certain amount of time, and that's it. And you have to constantly remind people, I apologize for anybody who got here late, right? If you want to get a reading, next time I go live, you should hit the like button and get a notification, because if you got here and I've been reading for an hour, you're not going to get a reading. We had to start doing that and tell people that, and then people get annoyed. Well, that's what happens if you show up late. If you buy a ticket to a baseball game and show up in the 7th inning, they're not going to rewind the baseball game for you. You either get there in the beginning or you don't get to know what happened. And when you show up, you go, what did I miss? Oh, 2 grand slams. Well, how come they didn't wait for me? Because you're not that important, bro. You're not, the whole world doesn't revolve around you. So I get that, but it's frustrating for psychics because people get mad and go, how good? Oh, I didn't get a reading. Well, when you're charging people money and people learn that, then you should have a thing they're saying, if you don't give me money, you may not get a reading. Right? Now, I'm not saying that because the person gave me a reading and I didn't pay anything. I didn't pay any stars and I still got a reading. So the person that read me today she was trying to make sure she read everybody. So she was not doing that, but I could see how that would happen, because somebody in there said that if you pay stars, you go to the front of the line. And I was like, really? So if I don't pay stars, do I get bumped by everybody and obviously that's what happens. But those people are paying. So I get that. They're paying money. So I get that. If you're paying money, you should get a reading before somebody who's not paying. So don't get me wrong. But the encouragement is that Facebook or there's a discouraging thing, is that Facebook is charging you 25 cents for every $1 that you buy stars with, so that you can give other people money. Why are they doing that? Right? It's the same concept that they sell you on, that, well, when we charge you to cross this bridge because we have to have maintenance on the bridge. Wasn't that what the taxes of the city, the county, and the state pay for? So why are you charging me another tax to go across the bridge? Right? Well, that's because of the upkeep. I live in the Bay Area, or used to live in the Bay Area of California. Because of that, you can't drive anywhere in the Bay Area, in the Bay, without going across a bridge that you have to pay a tax for. Okay? There is no direction that you can drive where you don't have to pay for at least one bridge. Okay? Now, that's not a bad thing. But once you pay for one bridge, if you come back across that same bridge, you don't have to pay. But if you go across another bridge, you got to be careful which direction. And they kind of got it set up to where if you go like racetrack wise, you'll pay for one bridge only. And I like that they did that. But the amount of money that they make every year, they charge you another 50 cents or another $1. When I was a kid, it was like $1 to go across the Golden Gate Bridge. And now I don't know what it is. I think it's up to like $20 to go across the Golden Gate Bridge. And they say it's because because it's going over salt water, they literally, and I know this because I knew a guy that used to paint the bridge. Literally, he said they start at one end and it takes them the entire spring to summer going into fall to paint the bridge once. And then they have to turn around and go back and start painting it again. And they have to do that every single year. They have to repaint the bridge over and over once a year. Otherwise, the salt water breaks down the paint, protecting the steel, and starts to erode the steel and rust the steel. So I get that. However, I do know that the cost to upkeep the Golden Gate Bridge in the last 40 years has costed them $100 million. And the amount of money that they've made off of that bridge in the same amount of time is $100 billion. You can look that up. Okay, so they're not just breaking even for the upkeep of the bridge. They're making money off of the toll, exponentially making a profit. And they tell you that the toll is because they have to pay to keep the bridge up and to do maintenance on it and to repaint it and to check this structure and replace things. And if that were the case and they were making no money except for the money that it would cost to do all of that and to pay the labor to do all of that, and they were just breaking even and they just had enough money to take care of the bridge and maintain it, I would buy it. But the fact that they've made like $100 billion in like 50 years profit above and beyond paying for all of the bridge to be redone over and over and over and over and over, and the upkeep of it should tell you something. And that's what they're doing with everything, is they're telling you that it's for the upkeep of a certain thing, and they're making a profit, and they're taking the money and spending it on other things. And most of the time they're going to wealthy restaurants and paying themselves 6-7 figure amounts of money to go to restaurants that cost $100,000 a plate with $50,000 a glass of wine. And you're paying for it. That's what you need to see. What Raw is warning us about, that is the modus operandi, and this is going on worldwide. Okay? So the entire structural system that this government, the world, is being run by is the system that the Anunnaki, that the Orion Crusaders set up on this earth. 100% of it. That is the true religion of evil people, is the caste system that is in charge of the militaries, the governments, your job corporation, your school, your churches, every business everywhere, and the structure that is a pyramidal structure with one person or one group of people at the top and everybody else below it. And 99% of the population is in the lowest tier, paying for 100% of everything else, is exactly the structure that we are living under right now. And their answer to that is more control and regulation over all of that other stuff to make sure that everybody has the same amount. And in doing so, you don't realize that they're forcing that on you by actually stopping people from manufacturing goods currently. Here in the state of California, if you drive into the middle part of the state of California and drive through what used to be farmland, there's nothing being farmed on the farmland, and there's signs on the farms that says brought to you by the government system of the state of California. So the state of California government has turned off the water and not allowed farmers to farm goods to create a scenario where there's not as much goods to make your food. So there's not as much food, and that's driving the price up of the food. And they're flooding the market with all this extra money, which is not going to the people or to manufacture food, which is in fact going to the richest 1% of the population and moving right back into their banks that you're paying taxes for. And they're creating, and this is happening worldwide, and they're creating a scenario where no one is making enough goods so that you don't have as much food as you're supposed to have, which drives the price up and the cost of making it, because they have to pay the government regulations to make it. You can look this up. I'm not making this up. Okay. And they're doing that to slowly starve you out and price you out so that when they say to you, evil corporations, which are the people who elected them and put them in charge and are paying them, why would they be going against the hand that feeds them? Because they're not. Evil corporations are charging you too much money, and you need to tell us that we can have power over them to regulate the cost of those goods, which they're already doing without your knowledge, and lowering the amount of goods that are manufactured so that the price goes up of those so that you can have the food and everything else, electricity, water, everything, including computers, cars, everything. And then they want you to give them total control over that regulation. And then they pretend that they're regulating that and that the corporations have to pay more taxes. And then the tax is just turned around and given to you by raising the cost of the product once again. And then they're lying to you and saying, like the stock market in the United States, for instance, or around the world, the stock market is at the highest that it's ever been. The economy is booming and we're doing beautiful. When they say that to you, they mean we, the 1%, are making record profits. Just because you're charging, instead of 75 cents for a gallon of gasoline, you're now charging $5 or $10 for the same gallon of gasoline, and now you're making record profits, so your stock is high, doesn't mean the economy's doing good. It means that the stock prices or the companies are making more money because they're charging you 75% more than they were 5 years ago for the same product. So they're making all kinds of money. The stock market is making all kinds of money. And the truth is that out of all the people who trade on the stock market worldwide, no matter what country the stock market's in, 1% of the population makes a profit off of all of that. You can look this up. 90% of all other people, or 99% of all other people that trade, take a loss more than they take a profit. So the same people who own the companies are making a profit on their companies with the prices and the profits up, are also the ones that are buying and selling the stock when they should be buying and selling the stock, because they have insider trading information of when to sell, and they sell it to you and you buy it. It's just like here in the United States, they're trying to sell you gold right now. And it's on a commercial, every commercial break. There's two of them on there for 2 or 3 different companies on every commercial break. You know why? Because gold is at the highest price per ounce that it has been in 50 years. So they're trying to sell it to you by selling you fear and saying, if the world goes to crap, you need to own gold. And that's why I buy gold. And they want you to buy it now because it's $3,000 to $5,000 an ounce currently. So they want you to buy it now because if the economy crashes, that gold that you just paid $3,000 an ounce for is only going to be worth $80 an ounce if the world economy goes to shit. Okay? And you're going to lose all that money. But guess what? You're going to panic and sell it. And guess who's going to buy it from you? You bought it from them for $3,000 an ounce. and then they generate a loss, and you freak out and you sell it off at $800 an ounce to the very people who sold it to you for $3,000 an ounce. They buy it back from you for $800 an ounce. And then as soon as the price starts going back up and the dollar goes down again, then they scare you into buying it again for $3,000 an ounce until they want to make a profit. And then they sell all theirs off at $3,000 an ounce and don't have any gold. And then they crash the economy and the price goes down and they buy all the gold back from you. This is what they do. You can ask any person who's honest, who knows about economics. In fact, I have two of Charles Payne's books sitting right here. Let me pull them up. Charles Payne with this book right here, Unbreakable Investor, and this book right here, Unstoppable Prosperity. One of the richest men on the face of the earth tells you about that very thing daily on his television show and in his two books right there about how you can succeed the way he did in the stock market by buying and selling when the rich people buy and sell, not when everybody else panic buys and panic sells. Okay. I wrote a book about the global economies and the dollar in the fake money that's out there in the world right now, and it's gotten even worse. I had no idea. I knew some about the stock market from when I was younger, and when I read this, I was like, oh my God, they've made 800 to 1,000 new ways of buying and selling stock and generating brand new bulks of money fakely again, by cutting stock in half and selling you portions and then selling you shares and selling you all these other things that are well, if you buy it here, then you have to sell it when I tell you to, and there's a name for that. And then there's another one that you can buy that says you have the option, stock options. I have the option to buy from you and you have to sell when I tell you to. And another one that you have to buy it from me when I tell you, and that you pay money for those options. So that it's called hedging your bet. That's what when you're gambling at a casino, you can back something by hedging your bet. Well, they've now taken every part of gambling and moved it into the stock market world, every single thing, and they just called it something different, right? So everything that you can do by doubling down or splitting your options or hedging your bet and covering your own bets so that if you lose on one hand, you still break even on another hand. They're now doing all of those things you can do at a casino on the stock market. I was like, wow, really? So card players that get addicted to gambling are the same people that get addicted to the stock market because it's set up the exact same way. So know that if it's set up the exact same way, gambling casinos are set up so that 90% of the profit goes to the house. That tells anyone with a brain that 90% of all profits on the stock market go to the house. Okay? 10% get lucky. So it's a gambling casino, no different than the mob running the gambling casinos in Las Vegas. Set up exactly the same way. Okay? The stock market is set up exactly the same dynamic. That means that 90% of all wealth spent by every person that walks in the door goes to 1% of the population. 90% goes to 1% of the population, the people who own it all. So the stock market, all the money made by the stock market goes to the 1% people who own all the companies. 90% of the wealth goes to them, and it's set up the exact same way that gambling casinos around the world are set up. No different. So people who are addictive personalities will either go to a gambling casino if you're lower income, and if you have more money but you have the same type of personality, you'll buy stocks in the stock market. And it's only the people who can see this, identify this, and know when to be patient. And if you read Charles Payne's books, he actually teaches you how to be patient, but it's really complicated. And if you have never taken an economics class in your entire life, social economics and global economics, you're going to have a hard time understanding what he said, right? I've taken those classes, wrote a book about it, right? But nobody wanted to read it because in my book, I tell you that you're the problem. You're the problem. The reason you don't have money is because you're the problem. I was talking to my brother about this, right? This is what Raw's trying to warn you about, guys. in the overtones 100% of Raw's message is telling you there's a group of people with a modus operandi to control the world. And I'm giving you the examples of this in real time happening to you now. So don't think that I'm ranting and raving about politics. I am ranting and raving about politics because politics and business is the religion of the Orion Crusaders, the Anunnaki. It's their religion. It is their way of controlling the population and making you a slave. Okay? And if you don't believe that, here in America, everybody says, I don't have any money. I can't buy any food. Meanwhile, they have an $1,100 cell phone in their hand, $1,100 cell phone to $1,500 for the cell phone, and they're going to buy a brand new one every year, but they don't have any money. They're usually wearing a watch or a smart watch that's another $1,200 with another $4,000 or $5,000 worth of jewelry and a $500 to $1,000 pair of shoes. And they're driving a car that costs $100,000. I don't have any money. I can't pay my bills. So how much money do you spend on groceries? I don't go to the grocery store. I don't cook. Oh, I see. So you spend more than $25 per meal for just yourself for every meal. Because you either go to a restaurant or you buy it at a fast food restaurant in the United States. So that's $19.99 or above for breakfast, for lunch, and for dinner. $20, $40, $60 a day on food alone. How much do you pay for your cell phone every month? $75 a month, $150 a month. Do you have cable and internet at your house? How much do you pay for that? $250 a month? Right? You don't have any money. Well, you don't have any money because if you ever took a class to teach you economics and were capable of writing in what is called the books, a ledger, your budget of how much money you make and how much money is that you spend on everything, because your cable, how many plus channels are you paying another $10 a month for on top of the cable bill that you have? Okay. You need to write all this stuff down. You don't have any money because you're going and buying a $12 Starbucks 3 times a day, plus $20 a day for a fast food breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Figure that out. 3 times 12 is what? Say $36, plus 20, 40, 60. So you're spending for coffee and food 60 plus 35, right? Or say 60 and 40. You're spending $100 every single day just on food and drink. $100 a day times 30 days. It's $3,000 a month just on food and drink. Not to mention $75 a month or $100 a month for your phone bill. Not to mention the $3,000 rent. Not to mention your electric bill, your water bill, your garbage bill. Okay? If you took the $12 a day times 3 for your coffee and put it in a coffee can, took the cash and put it in a coffee can, figure out how much $36 a day times 30 is. That's roughly about $450 or $500. And then look up how much it costs to buy an espresso machine. They cost about $350 to $500. In 1 month, you could buy an espresso machine, make your own coffee, and figure out how much it would cost you to make your own espresso 3 times a day, just as strong that you're paying $12 a day. You're going to find that after you pay the initial $500, it's going to cost you about 25 cents per coffee. So if it costs you $500 a month for coffee, and you buy one at the end of 1 month, and then it costs you 25 cents a day after that, at the end of 1 more month, you have now saved somewhere around $450 that you would have paid on espresso, and now you're buying your own, making your own espresso. and you have an extra $450 a month just by making your own coffee. If while you're making your own coffee, you decide to make your own food and feed yourself, and instead of paying $3,000 a month for your food, you buy food at the store and make your own food, you're going to eat better, healthier food, and you're going to find you save another $400 or $500 a month. So now you've saved $1,000 a month just by not being lazy, and you're going to eat better. You're going to be healthier because you're eating healthier food that's not all fillers and stuff. And guess what's going to happen then? You're going to have more energy, more time on your hand, and more money to spend, and you're going to lose weight because you're no longer eating 90 pounds of salt and sugar in everything that you're eating. So you're going to be healthier, have more energy, and you're going to have more money to spend just by changing two things about your life. But you're too lazy to do that. So I say to everyone in the world who claims that they don't have any money and that they're poor, that if you're not taking a look at and budgeting the money that you have, you deserve what you get, and you're going to get cancer or diabetes or some other disease, and you're going to die before you're 50 years of age. And if you never learn to help yourself, and you never listen to what Ross said, and you never identify the forest because you're too busy chopping down trees looking for the forest, then you deserve that. And that is the mindset of the people who are doing this to you, because they're aware of it and you should be too, but you're not. So they're right in front of your face, and they're telling you right in front of your face, don't eat our food is shit. The president of Philip Morris, it was R.J. Reynolds or Philip Morris, back in the 60s when they asked him, do you smoke the cigarettes that you sell? And he said, no, that's for the poor, the destitute, the stupid, and the black people to do. You can look that up. You can look that up. So the very people who were selling you a drug, nicotine and cigarettes with carcinogens that they knew would kill you, that they added nicotine to make it addictive so that you would continue buying it, knew that it was killing you. And then they put a warning on there from the Surgeon General in the United States that says, be careful, this could kill you. And if you ignore that, there's a disclaimer that says that if you ignore that, it's at your own peril. So they're blatantly telling you in front of your face, my product will kill you. Be aware of that. And if you ignore that, you can't sue them. So it took a lot for people to sue them over in the United States, and they sued them because they couldn't sue them for the choice. They sued them for the advertising, saying that they were targeting children, and they just stopped that. They didn't put the advertising on television anymore. Okay. Here's something that most of you don't know. Literally, the United States is one of two countries on the face of the earth that allows pharmaceutical companies to advertise their products on television. Most of you, I would wager that 99% of the population of the United States of America doesn't know that. Okay. And here's another thing that people in the United States don't know. Everybody in the United States believes that everybody in the world has the right to have an abortion. There are only 3 countries on the planet that abortion is legal. 3. The United States is one of them. The rest of the planet has voted in the countries that are free to not make abortion legal for everyone, 100% as a contraception. Only in the event of emergency, rape, incest, something like that. And then they're legal. But you have to prove that. And if you're in the UK, you know what I'm talking about, because in the UK, abortion is only if the mother is going to die, if she was raped or incest to get her pregnant, and you can prove that, and you have by filing charges against the person who raped you, or had a doctor, show that happened, or other people that were credible. So it's not like they're denying everybody 100%, right? And you can prove that, then you can have an abortion. But people in this country believe that the whole world has everybody allows abortion, except for dictatorships around the world. No. Dictatorships don't allow any abortion at all because rape and owning women are legal there. You're absolutely right. Look that up. Sharia law allows you to murder a female if she doesn't shut the hell up, like the Garden of Eden when Lilith wasn't doing what Adam wanted. You could kill her if she was in Sharia law, but beyond that, you can't just have 10 abortions in your life because you're using it as contraception. You don't have that right in all free countries because the people don't want to pay for your whore ass, men and women. You either are responsible for yourself or you pay the consequences. Same thing with divorce. People in this country get a divorce every other minute. Some countries, you have to prove why you're getting a divorce. You can't just do it. It takes a lot more for you to prove that there's something wrong. The person's evil, whatever, they beat you, whatever, abusive in some way. Over here, it's like breaking up. People just go, let's get married. Nah, get a divorce. I'm going to marry you. Oh, we'll get a divorce. Hollywood's great for that. Everybody in Hollywood has been married to everybody else, including the men and the women. They've all been married to everybody else. If you're an actor in Hollywood and you've been there more than an hour, you've already had 3 wives. And it's all the ones that everybody else was recycling. I would never have sex with a movie star. Everyone's like, if you could have sex with any movie star, who would it be? And I'm like, none of them. They've all had sex with each other. They're all doing it every day. Every party, they're marrying each other, getting a divorce, getting married, having sex, getting a divorce, and then the producers are screwing them all, men and women, forcing them, raping them. No, I don't want to have sex with anybody in that industry. Hell no. Never. Okay. So my point is you need to realize, right? So Denise, I don't know what you were talking about. You were talking about something I said before. She gets 50 cents on the dollar. So are you saying that like when you're, so when you're cashing in, I was wondering about that, Denise. So when you're cashing in, when people give you stars and you cash in, you're only getting 50 cents on the dollar. Is that what you were saying, Denise? I should have looked at that when I was talking about it. That's even worse. That annoys me. So you're paying Facebook and you're only getting 75 cents out of Facebook. And out of that 75 cents that you give to somebody, they only get half of that. That means that Facebook is taking 75 cents out of every dollar that you pay to buy, or at least half, right? Half. So Facebook is taking 50% of all the money spent to give stars to people. You buy the stars, you only get 75, and out of that 75, they only get half of that. Wow. That's messed up. Peter says a divorce in Ireland is 3 years roughly, and it could take up to 10 years. Right? And some of the states here are kind of like that. When I was getting divorced from my wife just recently in the state that we were filing for a divorce because she was living in the state of Virginia, it took us like 3 years to get a divorce, and we were only married for 2.5 years. And together for 2.5 years. It took us 3 years to undo what we had put together in 2.5 years. That we could have filed for a divorce in the state of Arizona, but we both would have had to have driven there. If we did that, we could have had a divorce in a couple of months from the state of Arizona because we were both wanted it. But in the state of Virginia, they make you wait a minimum of a year from the first filing date, and then they have another year to so it takes almost 3 years to get a divorce there because they want to make sure that you're serious about it, right? So I get that. They want to make sure that you're serious, and it could take forever. But 10 years is insane, bro. That's crazy. You get married to somebody for 3 years, and it could take 10 years to get a divorce. That's insane. Okay, so you guys have to realize that everything that's happening in the world, that is this politics and business and this whole modus operandi of this earth and how the structure of this society, global society, is working is gamed. The system is gamed for the 1% of the population who owns 90% of everything and gets 99% of all wealth. And they have now moved it to a place where they're perpetuating that status quo. Government systems are designed to sustain themselves. The United States government is not designed anymore to be for the people, by the people. It is designed so that the government will not be overthrown. And that's what they work for constantly. Everything they do and all laws they pass are to make sure that nobody cannot be a subject of theirs. And all of the people who run the government, you can come in owing $10 million and get elected to Congress in the United States and stay in Congress for 5 years and walk away with $100 million. And if you don't, it's because you're stupid. Because all of them do insider trading. All of them get paid money to vote a certain way by lobbyists. It's all legal because they made it legal. So literally what they're trying to go after and impeach Donald Trump over, they're all doing daily. Literally what Donald Trump is trying to expose Joe Biden of doing, every politician is doing daily. You need to realize that. This is why before when I said when Donald Trump is pointing his finger at, say Kamala Harris and she's pointing her finger at Donald Trump and they're both, the Democrats are saying the Republicans are telling you who they are. You should pay attention. And the Republicans are saying the Democrats are telling you who you are. You should be paying attention. They're both telling you the truth. Okay. There was a comedian over here in the United States. His name is Dave Chappelle. And I think I talked about this on air. Oh my God, it's one of the funniest skits that he ever did. And it's a true story. Okay. Dave Chappelle says during the 2016 election, Donald Trump was going up against, as a Republican, was going up against Hillary Clinton as the Democrat. And he's watching them on stage. I watched this too. So this is what made it even funnier, because I know that what he was saying was true because I watched it live. And Hillary Clinton says, you know what about Donald Trump? He doesn't pay his taxes. And Donald Trump says, you're absolutely right, I don't. And that makes me smart. And this is Dave Chappelle telling you the story. But it's just verbatim what they said. I was watching it live at the time. And I just watched his comedy show like last month, and I was dying laughing. And I watched it a couple of weeks ago again, and I was dying laughing. He says, and Donald Trump says, if you want me to pay taxes, then you shouldn't you should change the tax laws. But I know you won't, because you and all your friends use the same loopholes that I use. That he really said that in real life. Dave Chappelle then says, and he's standing on a stage with a door behind him, right? He says, that man walked out of that door and walked out and looked at the world and said, everything that you think we're doing behind that door, we are doing behind that door. And then he turned around and he walked right back in that door and started playing the game again. Because that's true. He said, and that's when I knew that man was going to be the president of the United States, because nobody talks like that. And he came out and stated the truth. You're right, I'm not paying taxes. And the reason I'm not is because you and your friends made those loopholes. So if you want me to pay taxes, change the laws. I know you won't, because you guys are all using them and you're not paying taxes either. Truth. He came out that door, looked around at the world and all the rest of us and said, everything you think we're doing behind that closed door, we are doing. And then he walked right back in that room, closed the door, and started playing the game. Okay? That's so what you need to realize is he was showing you through comedy that they're actually telling you right in front of your face what they're doing. And they're all on the same side. And she was trying to make him look bad. And he said, you're the one that enacted those laws. When you and your husband were the president, when he was the president, you were the first lady, you guys put those laws in place so that I don't have to file my taxes. And you're not going to change them. You're just trying to make me look bad. He didn't say those words, but that's what he was saying to her. You're trying to make me look bad, and you're doing the exact same thing. So he called her out on it. And that's why they hate Donald Trump. Because he's one of them, and he's not afraid to tell everybody he's one of them. Look, I made millions of dollars by buying and selling real estate all over the fucking planet, and I filed bankruptcy 5 times in my life, or it was actually 3 times. 3 times in my life because those loopholes allowed you to do it. I've done it. I filed bankruptcy. I wrote a book about how to get out of debt, and I tell you in the book, If none of this works and you mismanage your money, you can file bankruptcy and get out from under all of it. Because I did it. Okay. Then everybody wants to give you credit because you can't file bankruptcy again for another 7 to 13 years, depending on the country that you live in. So you file bankruptcy. It's a wash. They take all of your money. They treat you like a slave. They tell you how stupid you are. They make you watch videos. You put up with all that. The judge scolds you. The world scolds you. They tell you you're a stupid slave and that we're going to give you this one time. We're going to let it go, but know that we're watching you and you can't do it again because we know you cheated. And you're bad and bad and bad and bad. And they treat you like crap and tell you how stupid you are throughout the entire thing, and you take all of it. And then your debt goes away, and then everybody wants to sell you a car, a house. Everybody wants to give you a credit card because you can't get out from under the debt now. So if you do it, you have to learn from it because you can take all the credit cards and run them all up, but you're stuck with it for 7 to 13 years, depending on what state you live in and what country you live in. So you can get out from under your debt if you have a large debt. And you have to have a certain debt too. You have to run shit up to a certain level to be able to qualify to file bankruptcy. You have to prove that you cannot pay your debt, just so you know. You have to prove that you have so much debt that you will never get out from under it to be able to file bankruptcy. So people who file bankruptcy like Donald Trump did, when he realized that he needed to, he ran all of his debt up so high that he proved that he did not have the wherewithal with everything he had, even if he sold everything off, to make enough money to pay his debt. And then they wipe out the debt. And you lose a lot of your property, but you don't owe it anymore. And then you start over and everybody gives you all brand new credit again because they know you can't do it again. So they're willing to give you free credit. All you have to do is manage it then. So truly, if you want to, you can game the system like Donald Trump did. I wrote about that in my book. He paraphrased it, although I think I'm not saying that I invented those words, but he said exactly what I said in my book, and I felt good about that, knowing that rich people actually do think that way. That everybody can succeed in this society if you actually understand how it works. But they don't teach you that. So you have to ask the question of what is it that they know that I don't know, and how can I find that out? When you ask the right questions, you get the actual answers to that. And then you can become successful. And that's what Charles Payne is teaching you in his books that I was telling you about. So you should take a look at those but you also need to take an economics class to understand, and maybe a business class to understand that. If you ever took an economics, global economics, social economics, and business classes, you would be successful. And then take civics classes to understand how to manage that and why and what you can do to keep everybody in check. They used to teach those in schools and they don't do that anymore because people like me were learning it and we were becoming entrepreneurs. There was more millionaires in America, and the rich people around the world were getting mad because there was all these peasants, these slaves, they were making millions of dollars in America. So they had to change the dynamic, and in Europe. So they had to change the dynamic and make everybody poor. And that's what they've done. And that's what they're working on. That is the modus operandi that Raw is warning about, guys. That is exactly what they're doing on purpose to you. They've taken away the classes being taught to you in general. The only thing they teach you in school now is just enough of reading, writing, and arithmetic to be able to speak, read, and sign documents. They don't give you enough education to get any other jobs anymore unless you are smart enough to go after it yourself. It's all there for you, but you have to know where to look. That's why, there's my book again. That's why in my book, let me put it up on the screen again for you guys. The reality about reality, returning to the old ways, is literally telling you that in a spiritual sense. The same thing has been done to you in a spiritual sense so that you cannot ascend, so that you don't understand or understand what you're doing here or why. They've taken that away from you, but it's right in front of your face. They can't get rid of it altogether because the universe won't allow them to. The prime directive. They can't do it. Even if they wanted to, they can't do it because it wasn't set up to allow them to do it. I remember asking that question when I was really young. Why don't they just destroy all the documents? And my father said to me, because they can't, son. They can't. They try. They try to murder everybody who knows about it, and people hide that stuff away and get it out anyways, because the universe is set up so that it happens. Chaos theory. And I was like, that can't be a thing. So I went into physics and learned about chaos theory to see if that was true. And chaos theory proves, they talk about that in Jurassic Park, the first movie, the character, the scientist who Jeff Goldblum plays, is a chaos theorist, scientist, a physicist. And everything that he says, that his character says, is true. True, real theory of chaos theory in real life. And that's what sold that show even more to the world, was that the theories they used for all of that entire storyline are accurate theories. There's a lot of that goes on, and that goes into real thought, that goes into selling, stories and movies, because the best ones are the ones that are close enough to reality to where you go, that could happen. That's scary, but it could happen. Even The Matrix could happen, right? And somewhere in the universe probably is exactly the way you see the Matrix movie. People want to think that it's happening here like that, but it's not. But part of that is true, that this is an illusion, because it is. This is an illusion. It's not happening to you. It's happening for you, and it's all in your mind. Because your mind isn't something. I just posted about that your mind is within you. It's not a brain that's external. The universe is within you. It's not external. Everything is within you, not without. To see everything without is living in the flesh, eating of the tree of life. That's what those stories, getting back in full circle, that's what the story of Adam and Eve was supposed to be telling you. The same story of the Christ oil, the same story of the Santa Claus, the same story of Thor's descension to earth, and then Ragnarok happening and his ascension and illumination. The name Thor means thunder. His war hammer controls lightning, and the name of his war hammer is Mjolnir. Mjolnir. That actually means lightning. So the god of thunder, because his name is Thor and that means thunder, he is the god of thunder and lightning because he is the illumination. He is the Christ. He is the descension down to earth because he angered his father. So the difference is Jesus was sacrificed by his father. And the Viking story, Thor was sacrificed by his father, but in that one he made his father angry because he was a dick. Both were made mortal. Both had to prove themselves. Both had to die in the flesh to be able to be resurrected and go up and free the heavens by illuminating the heavens. Jesus dies, is crucified, goes to hell, and then is resurrected and becomes the light of the world. Thor comes down to earth and then, because of Ragnarok, ascends back to Valhalla and saves Valhalla by bringing with him an army of the Middle Earth of humans, coming up there and showing them the way, crossing Bifrost, the Rainbow Bridge, going through the hippocampus, going through the optic thalamus, going through the chimney, right, going through the claustrum, going from Middle Earth to Valhalla on the Tree of Life. It's the same thing, just different words telling you. And then he illuminates the world. He cracks the sky with his lightning, illuminates the sky and turns darkness into daylight. Sound familiar? Ooh. As the light reflects off a car outside. And right when I said that, you had the Aurora Borealis on the wall behind me. That was pretty badass timing. That was pretty badass timing right there. I saw it happen. So you have to realize that everybody's knocking down every tree because the Viking thing was only written in the 1100s. That was when some guy wrote it down. The stories go back further than that. So they must have copied it from the other people who copied it from the other people who copied. Again, that's everybody leapfrogging over every civilization. And instead of learning what each civilization was telling you and realizing that every civilization is telling you the exact same story, translated for the people and the way of life of those people, translated into a way that they would understand. But the same story was the same story with different names. Same character is the same character. The same ascension is the same ascension. The same illumination is the same illumination in every single religion. Instead of people realizing that, these theologians around the world, their theology is the study of a religion itself and not what the religion is telling you. So theology is supposed to be the study of religions, the message. But theology has become the study of the religion, the orthodoxy, and structure of a religion instead of a message. And that's what they all do now. And all of them teach you from their perspective the same way religions do. We're the right one and they're all fake. All of that is done to you by evil people to keep you from learning the message that every religion, every spiritual way of life on the planet, the message that was originally being taught to you until a specific time in that country's history. And all of that originated when the Anunnaki got here, the Orion Crusaders got here, the Anunnaki. The Orion Crusaders got here, and the knowledge that they gave to the evil people on this earth, and that they claim that they're descendants from these so-called gods, when it was a different timeline, and they were descendants from Atlanteans, and the ones that were stuck here are the prisoners on the penal colony that is Earth, that they tell you is the penal colony that aliens came down here and created the human race. So they're lying to you and projecting onto you what happened to them. There was a civil war in the War of the Gods that is told in every single country on this earth. And I'm here to tell you that civil war did happen. And it was between people who were in service to others and people who were in service to self. And the ones who were in service to others won. But the ones that are in service to self said, we defeated the evil gods and they ran away. Well, then how come you guys don't have any technology and spaceships to do anything and you're stuck here? Never mind that now, slave. Never mind that. We're in charge. We have all that. We're just not going to show it to you. Yeah. We have all that stuff. We're just not showing it to you because you're the slave. We can leave whenever we want. We leave all the time. You just don't know about it. Yeah. Oh, but there's no such thing as aliens and there are no spaceships and they were never here. But yet these same people who tell you that are the ones who tell you that they're descendants of people who own this planet. Those are the ones they are the prisoners who were stranded here on this earth with all of us. Okay. And it wasn't done because the people who left hated us. We were almost killed off by the evil people, which started the Civil War to begin with. So Thoth, the Atlantean, the book that was left behind, everyone's like, well, the Atlanteans were good people. Yeah, 86% of them. They left. They didn't get defeated. They stranded and destroyed all ways off of this earth that the evil people had, and they were stuck here living on this earth as a prison. And their crime was what they did to the human race and almost annihilated it off the face of the earth. But the human race survived and repopulated long enough to where those evil people had to breed with us, and now most of their DNA is gone because our DNA is actually superior to theirs. Oopsie. Because if it wasn't, they would all still have the big skull and the big brain. But that was bred out of them. Why? Because our DNA is stronger than their DNA, and we bred them out of the gene pool. But the Illuminati doesn't want you to think that they're superior in every way, intellect and all of this, and we're in control because we're in charge. Really? You're stuck here with us in the same prison, dumbasses. How's that working out for you? Okay, so the book from Thoth the Atlantean was left behind by Thoth, depends on how you say it, potato, tomato, tomato. And Hermes found it. Hermes Trismegistus. And we know that because there was a statue of Hermes, and buried it under the feet of the statue of Hermes is how we know about Thoth the Atlantean, because the book, the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, were found there. So everyone goes, well, then Hermes must be Thoth. That same thinking has made Jesus Christ God. Okay? That same thinking has made Jesus Christ God. Because the very people who, after Jesus died, said, well, Jesus was the Son of God. Weird that he starts out as the Son of God. God was his father, and he was his kid. And then right after that, they say, but he was the Word of God. Therefore, he was God's voice. And if he was God's voice, whenever you hear God speaking, it's actually Jesus. Therefore, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, it's one person. Jesus is, in fact, God. Because Jesus was the Word of God, and he was speaking as God whenever he spoke. Therefore, Jesus is God. And that's how they elevated Jesus from the status of a prophet and the Son of God to God himself. Hermes Trismegistus is now synonymous with Thoth 5,000 years later. And people say Hermes was Thoth. Is the soul the same soul that came here as Thoth, who came back as Hermes? Very possible. Was that same soul the same soul that came back as Jesus? Also very possible. Was that soul the same soul who then came back as Muhammad? Also very possible. Is that the same soul that 5,000 years ago came as Moses? Also very possible. Was that soul the same soul that 3,500 years ago came as the Buddha and again as Lao Tzu? Also very possible. And there's very many of us on this planet, and there's 12 of those examples. Thor, there's 12 of those examples for the top 12 spiritual paths, Marduk, on the face of the earth, Gilgamesh, that are the exact same scenario. Either it's in the same one that John Smith was taught about here in the Americas. There's 12 of those who seem to be quite possibly the same soul reoccurring in 12 different places throughout 12,000 years of time to teach the exact same message. Or there were 12 individual people who woke up to the exact same knowledge that is universal in the universe, that gained the same exact knowledge and were giving that knowledge over to the human population in 12 different countries, in 12 different, which have become religions, or both. Okay? The answer to that question, I know, but the answer to that question, you have to discover. Because that's part of the ascension and the awakening. So whether I tell you the answer to that or not doesn't matter, because you'll either believe me or think that I'm lying to you, right? So I'll give you the answer to it. Yes. The answer is the information that all of those people were telling you was told to you by one individual soul, and that information is accessible, and knowledge is accessible by every single soul on this earth. And that is what they were all telling you. But the consequent religion that was created for each one of those individual message bearers was corrupted over time to teach you a different story that would distract you 100% away from learning that knowledge which they were trying to give you the entire time. And I say to all of you out there around the world, do not believe that what I just told you is the truth. Question my motivation for telling you this. Assume that I'm lying to you, and look it up for yourself and read every spiritual practice on the face of the earth, and read and learn the message, not the way. Because what they'll teach you is they'll indoctrinate you to a way, and they'll want you to join their church, their religion, so that you can spend the rest of your life studying the way that they want you to learn. And you'll never learn what it is that that ascended master was teaching you if you agree to that. You will only learn how to have a relationship between you and other humans on this soul or on this earth. And you will only learn that wait here. He or she's coming back for you. We don't know when, but they're bringing a bus and you have to be ready. And the only way you can be ready is to do what we tell you to do, and you'll be rewarded after you die. That will be the message you will gain from every single religion on this earth. Keep coming here so that we can make sure you're ready, and we'll tell you when you're ready, and they'll never tell you that you're now ready. You don't have to learn anything else. You're ready when Jesus comes back. You're ready when Moses comes. You're ready when Muhammad. You're ready when the Buddha. You're ready when Thor. You're ready. You're good. You've learned everything you need to learn. You will never hear that out of any religion, ever. What they will tell you is that you're perpetually wrong, you're perpetually not adding up, you're perpetually a sinner, and you're perpetually not doing what you're supposed to be doing, and you have to keep coming here so that we can keep correcting you. Sound familiar? Equity, we have to tell you what it is. So you have to give us the power to tell you what you're doing wrong. Know that you are. You're not perfect, because only the creator of the universe is perfect and you're not it. So you are an ongoing, never fixed, because you're living in the flesh and you're a sinner. And it's not your fault. Okay, that's what you're going to get from religion. Now, know, if you've never heard me before speak, that I have 4 religious titles from 4 different religions on this earth, 2 of which are the largest 2 religions on the face of the earth. Okay? One of which is the 3rd largest religion on the face of the earth. Okay? So I'm not coming from an atheist standpoint or somebody who's anti-religion. I'm anti-orthodox religion, because the word dox is in the orthodox. Think about that. Think about what we use the word dox when you dox somebody. Orthodox. Spelled the same way too, with the X. Now, look at your religion and ask yourself, are they teaching you how to ascend, or are they teaching you how to have a relationship? It's all about a relationship. My brother talks about this. He's in a theological college, a Christian theological college. It's all about a relationship with Jesus. Is it? I thought Jesus was teaching you how to ascend to heaven. So why is it that the current Christian church is teaching you that the message is about a relationship with Jesus? Jesus wasn't saying the way to heaven is by having a relationship with me. Jesus didn't say that. Never said that. Show me where he said that. Jesus said the way to heaven is through me. What does that mean, that you have to go through Jesus's body? That's kind of nasty. Well, we don't know where his body is. So what did he mean by that? Well, obviously he was meaning by my way. So that's not having a relationship with Jesus. That's learning his method, what he was telling you to do. What was Jesus telling you to do? Never mind that now, because it was based on an older book called the Old Testament, the Hebrew Bible. Really? Jesus wasn't actually teaching the Hebrew Bible at all. He was actually teaching how for you to have a relationship with God. Oh, but now that Jesus is God, it's about having a relationship with Jesus. But that's not what Jesus was teaching. And you can read that for yourself, but they don't want you to read that for yourself. They want you to only know, because you'll get the wrong idea. You won't interpret it right. You'll get the wrong idea, and you won't know what you're doing if you read it on your own. We have to guide you. Equity. I have to tell you what to think, because you're not going to know it right. Well, why won't I know it right? Well, because you're not educated. Well, how about you educate me? Well, that's what I'm trying to do. No, you're trying to tell me that I can't get educated unless you tell me how to do it. Then how come when I ask you, what do I need to know to interpret this on my own, do you tell me, I'm telling you what you need to know? No, what you're telling me is what to think. You're not teaching me what I need to know to understand this book. You're trying to tell me what the book says. Do you see that? They're not teaching you how to be successful. They're teaching you how to be dependent on them. Sound familiar? You will own nothing and you will be happy. Okay? So they're not teaching you how to be an entrepreneur. They're teaching you how to be dependent on them. They're not teaching you to ascend. They're teaching you to be dependent on them. They're not teaching you what Jesus or Muhammad or Thor or Moses or David or Elijah or the Buddha or Lao Tzu. They're not teaching you what they were teaching. They're teaching you to be dependent on their knowledge of what they were teaching. So religion recruits you. Spirituality waits for you to find it. Do you understand that? So they're not teaching you how to be successful as a soul. They're teaching you to be dependent on their knowledge. And the knowledge they're giving you is not how to ascend. Because if they were teaching you that knowledge, they would tell you, listen, I'm going to show you what you need to know, and you're not going to need me anymore. When was the last time you heard any clergy from any church tell you, from any religion, we have a class for you to go to, and at the end of this class, you're never going to need to come to this church again? Because we're going to teach you what you need to know to interpret the Bible properly. Why are they not teaching that? If what they're saying is true, and they have this knowledge, why aren't they giving it to anyone else? Ask that question. What do I need to know that's in this book? Because you say everything is in this good book. Where is it in this good book that teaches me what you know about the good book? Oh, well, you just have to go to our indoctrination school where we'll teach you how to teach people this. Why aren't you just teaching that to everybody? Oh, that's right. Because if you teach that to everybody, they don't need to pay you a tithing and come to your church anymore, and you go out of business. Isn't that what they're supposed to be doing? Isn't the best teacher the one that is trying to make themselves obsolete? Apparently not. Okay? Apparently not. So that means they're not teaching you how to ascend. They're teaching you how to sit here and wait for them to tell you how to ascend. And yet nobody knows how that is. So, because they never teach the end story, do they? They tell you, well, after you die, then there's this reward. Well, then what the fuck am I doing with you all? I'm wasting my time my whole life then. Oh, because you only get the spell of the afterlife at the end just before you die. Well, how about then I put a gun to my head and go, you got about 30 seconds, tell me the story, because there's no reason for me to hang around here. If dying is the only way I get your knowledge, I don't need to stay around here anymore, do I? I need to kill myself, so you better give me the knowledge. Oh, but you're not going to even give me the knowledge when I kill myself. No, because if you kill yourself, you're going to have to start all over and come back here and do it all over again. So then how do I get the knowledge? Just sit down over here. Make sure you come every Sunday. Have a few bucks with you. Okay? And I'll give you that story. When? When will you give me that? I'm giving it to you every day. Are you? Because you're not telling me anything that's not already in this book, because you keep reading from it. So some part of me says if I read this book on my own, I should get the same information you're telling me. No, you'll read it wrong. I'm reading the same words you're reading. They mean the same thing in my mind that they mean in your mind, because I know the definition of all these words. Because I go to this other place that's called a school where they teach me how to read this other book that's called a dictionary. And that dictionary is supposed to tell us what all words mean. So are you saying the dictionary's wrong, that these words that are in here don't mean what they mean in here? Well, no, of course they mean that. Okay, so if I read a word in here and I look it up in here, I'll know what you know about the word in here, right? Because it's the word in here, right? Well, some of the words in there have 10 different meanings, 100 different meanings. So you don't know which one it is. Well, if I'm reading the word over here and I'm trying to figure it out and I read every one of those words there and what the meanings are, one of them's going to make sense in this sentence, right? Oh, wait a minute. Now you've got critical thinking going on. You can't do that. Can you? Looking things up. Amanda, hi. I don't know how long you've been here. I just happened to look at the chat and I was able to read it without my glasses right then. And I see Amanda there. Hi. Welcome. Anybody else that didn't say hello in the chat or did and I missed you, I apologize. So you have to realize that everything that's going on here is what Ra is warning you about. No one is teaching you what you need to know to succeed in any aspect of your life, in any country, in any school, in any religion. All of the information is there in all of those religions, in those libraries. They're there for you to succeed. But they're not letting you read those things unless you pay them money. They're there. You can look them up and you can find them and you can read them. I suggest that you question everything. To everybody out there in the world, then I'm going to go because it's almost 6 p.m. I suggest that you read for yourself. Stop spending your time laughing at kitties and people falling down and people racking their nuts on shit on the apps, because that's what they're using to distract you. They're using everything that all these platforms are there, including it's an election year in the United States and anywhere else in the world where there's elections, and all you guys are doing is yelling past each other on all the platforms, and nobody's actually paying attention that they're both saying the other one's lying to you, and they're both telling the truth. While they're lying to you about everything else, they're both telling you the truth that the other one's lying to you about everything, because they're both telling you the truth while they're both lying to you. Know that. Okay? Know that. That's like a sign that says, how do you get out of here? You go that way and that way. That's what they're doing. Okay? That is the modus operandi that they have perpetuated on this planet. Become aware of that. Your best scenario for your ascension is to choose whether you're in service to self or in service to others. Whichever you choose it and stay on the path. If you want to be evil, do it. Okay? Do it. You're the one that's responsible for yourself and your actions. So if you do it and then you get caught doing some shit and you end up behind a cage for the rest of your life, your fault. Your fault. Okay? If you choose to be in service to others and you do nothing, then you can't complain about anything because you're not doing anything about it. If you're in service to others and you choose to learn about yourself so that you can better yourself, and then look around the universe or look around your world or in the country that you live in, and look at people who are successful and go, why are they successful and why am I not? What do they know that I don't know? You can ask some of them, and you're going to find that some of them are going to go, you're an idiot. They're not going to tell you because they don't want you to know, because you become their problem, because you become their competition. So you have to look at that and go, what do they know that I don't know that makes them successful? Okay. And what they've done is, and what they're doing is, you have to be like them to be as successful as them. So if you want to be a global empire, you have to become evil because they only reward evil people. And then you have to get punked into their little club, and then they own you, and then you do what they tell you to do, and whatever you have created, wherever you are on the planet, you're going to be telling everybody that everybody's gay and that everybody should be having sex change operations by 10, because that's what they're telling all corporations to do now, worldwide. So you'll be orchestrated and told to do that by all accounts from every government now, and you'll be regulated. But if you put up with all that, you can be as rich as you want to be. Or you can turn into a TikTok, influencer on and make all kinds of money. But when you make a certain amount of money, you get the eyes of the dragon focused on you, and then they either buy you out or force you to become one of them. Just know that, right? Just know that. And then they go after you if you don't. Look at Elon Musk. Elon Musk was one of them until he wasn't. Donald Trump was one of them until he wasn't. Will they become one of them again? Are they secretly one of them? Probably. But right now, those guys are going against the grain. Doesn't mean they're not evil too. It just means that they're not the ones that are in charge and they're trying to be in charge. Do you see? It's always a battle for power by those people who are seeking power. So people then go, well, I'm not going to do anything about it because I can't. Well, that's if you do that, then whatever happens to you, and if you stay poor for the rest of your life, that's your own fault. Because you're only poor because you're making bad decisions in your life. Okay, no, it's not true. I can't get ahead because what? Because you're spending $1,000 on a cell phone? It's $75 a month on that cell phone? Because you're spending $30 a meal? Because you don't want to cook for yourself? You're spending $12 a coffee because you don't want to make your own coffee at home? You're poor because you've bought into their system. I wrote about that in my book, telling everybody in America, you're not poor, you're America poor. Because the money that you make in America, if you move to a country where you couldn't buy a Starbucks and you couldn't buy a fast food restaurant and you had to make your own coffee and you had to, because they didn't have enough money to have all those things there, and you had to go to the store and buy your own food, the money you have that you make currently makes you rich in any other country on the planet if it's not a European-owned country. So if you're in a country that is Europe or the Americas, or especially North America, you're poor only because you're buying all their shit at exorbitant prices. I have no choice, dude. So buying $20 for a lunch and $20 for breakfast and $20 for dinner every day is you have no other choice? Sure you do. You can go to the store and buy some holistic cereal that's good for you and eat a bowl of cereal every morning. I don't have time in the morning. No, you don't, because you got to get up and go drive and sit in a Starbucks for 25 minutes and then go and drive to a McDonald's for another 25 minutes before you go to work. Okay, that's an hour before work that you would have at home to cook your own food. Take you a half an hour to cook and eat your own food, and then you could drive to work at your leisure and then go to the bathroom when you get at work, because by then you're digesting your food and your drink that you made at home that only costed you $5 or less instead of $40. Your priorities. I don't have time. I get up at the very last second because I stay up too late drinking alcohol and partying with my friends. Another bad decision. I go to bed at 3 in the morning because I got to get up at 6 in the morning to go to work, and I have to be at work by 7, but I have to go to a drive-through for a Starbucks and a drive-through for a bagel dog or whatever you buy, a Big Mac or whatever on the way to work, or a breakfast thing on the way to work. And it's going to take me an hour to do that because I got to go and sit in those fucking lines and pay $30 before I even get to work. You don't even realize you're doing that to yourself. The best thing that's happening to the world right now is that the world is making everybody so poor that they can't afford to go and buy that shit anymore, and they're starting to cook for themselves. Eventually, you're going to start realizing that if you plant crops and learn that shit again, those skills again, and you plant some vegetables and fruits, especially vegetables, that you won't have to pay those vegetables at the prices at the store because you have your own being grown. And then you save that money. Oh, but now I don't have time to grow vegetables. Sure you do. If you're not driving and sitting 30 minutes again to get your food at dinner time, that's 30 minutes you can go out and pick the weeds and water your plants that is going to give you food and feed you for free. But you don't know that because you're in a hurry because you need to make more money because you're spending $5,000 a month and you're only making $4,000 a month, and you don't know why. Because nobody taught you how to do anything besides that. Because that's what they're teaching you. And you have the entire planet's history and knowledge in your hand. And every second that you waste on this device, your smartphone, you're wasting looking at shit that they're distracting you away from the knowledge of how to make money, how to make food, how to grow food, how to survive without technology, and how to make your money last, and how to get healthy doing all of that. Because you don't have enough time and you just want to get away from the world. So you're either sitting in front of a television or you're sitting in front of your phone, and you're wasting your life with the very knowledge of the universe in front of your face, again, knocking the tree down to try and find the forest. The first step in avoiding a trap is knowing of its existence. This is what Ra is warning you about. For those of you who tuned in, and when he's not talking about the law of one, I'm talking about the law of one this entire time. Talking about what Ra is warning you about, and I'm showing you that it's happening to you in real life, and you're seeing it happening to you all day long, and you're complacent with it. Because if you weren't, you would be going, I need to do something to make money. How can I make money? That's a good question. Why don't you look into how to make money? Instead of going, I'm going to go on TikTok and find out how the guys on TikTok are making money. Well, if they're all on TikTok making money, they're not going to tell you really, truly how to make money, because if they do that, you're going to be their competition and they won't make so much money. So the truth is, and I've said this my entire life, if you want to get a get-rich-quick scheme and make money at it, come up with a get-rich-quick scheme and sell that to everybody else. That's how you make money. You don't make money off the get-rich-quick scheme unless you're selling it to other people. Because if you do what you're selling the knowledge of to everyone else, they're all going to start doing it. And you're not going to make as much money. So that's why when you go to these guys on TikTok, if you look, they have videos of 100 different get-rich-quick schemes. That's how they're making their money, is selling 100 different get-rich-quick schemes to as many people who want to buy them. They're not doing any one of those things. They tell you they are, but they're not. What they're doing is selling you the get-rich-quick idea of how to get rich, and they're not doing that thing. What they're doing is selling you the idea. That's how you make money. Every single person who's ever sold a get-rich-quick scheme has told you, I didn't really do that stuff. That's why they stopped saying I did it, and they say, here's people who did it. And they pay people to say they did it, and then they give you a disclaimer that it doesn't work for everyone. And then they sell you that product, and you buy it, and you try to do it. And when you fail, they go, we told you that not everybody does that. And if you make some money at it, you'll find that there's so many people flooding the market trying to make money at it that nobody's making a lot of money at it. And then you have to what? Then you have to have 100 of those things that you're doing to make a little bit of money here, a little bit of money here, and a little bit of money here, and a little bit of money here, so that it all trickles in. The truth is, all you have to do is sell everybody to do all of those things that you're doing, and you make more money at it. That's how you make money. All right, I got to go because it's 6 o'clock, and my mother is now trying to put her shoes back on that she took off, and she doesn't understand why her chair won't go up, because she closed the chair, and she doesn't realize anymore because she's 80, and she doesn't realize she has to reach to the side and pull the little handle so her feet come up, and she's sitting there putting her feet up, not understanding why the chair's not coming up. All right, so I got to go and help my mom. I love you guys. I'll see you guys next week. We'll start the next session, and we'll go from there, all right? All right, guys, have a great night. I love you. I'll see you guys next week. Enjoy the weekend wherever you are in the world. This has been Orion Rising. I am your host, Leonard O'Neill. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good morrow, depending on where in the world you are tuning into the show.